Here's a question. Can you be nostalgic for something that you've never seen? Apparently, there's this television series that streamed on Netflix 9 years ago in November. Well, no, that's set in November 1983, but it streamed. Um, was it in July 2015? Now I don't know the dates. The dates are escaping me. 2016, and somehow I never watched it. I had hints of things that were out there, but after I have now watched it, at least the first two seasons, I realized I've never seen any memes from this series, and yet I am assured by the internet that it has a very large cult following, and therefore there should be memes out there, shouldn't there? And references and ways in which it folds back into our present. And I am now mystified. I'm terrified. I suppose delighted and enraptured. And of course, I managed to watch all of season 1 in one evening. And now we need to talk about it. Stranger things have happened than the professor discovers the upside down. Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. One. Ah, we're here. We're here. Did you watch it? Did you watch all of it? Did you watch it all like in one sitting?
No, I don't have the energy you
Don't you?
have.
Oh my God! This is this episode and the next several episodes probably, because we're gonna like get deep into this particular cult
Oh, in my opinion, it
moment.
gets even better.
Well, this is interesting, but this particular cult moment is dedicated to our fellow Dragon Common Room poet and sailor on the Mosaic Ark, Mel. Hi, Mel, who has helped us tonight with all of the images that we have. That I would not have this amazing repertoire of things to talk with you about if it weren't for Mel's collecting for us. So
Yeah, she's a super fan for sure.
Yeah, so the Mel. It's not, she's not a super fan. She's one of our writers, right? But
she's a super fan of the show.
Super fan of Stranger Things, not of the Ark, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so confused. The overlaps are like intense. And of course, Mel has been gently, and as she does, sort of river runly, pointing to, Doc, have you watched this? Have you watched this? I have no idea why I had not watched this show.
Yeah, and now she's created a monster.
Well, so in fact, nothing. The first thing I asked the two of you after when I came up for air from watching it was like, why haven't I seen memes of this show? I feel like it resonates with absolutely everything that we've been talking about in writing our poem, in trying to do things on the Mosaic Ark. And so I'm rather mystified that this isn't, if it has such a huge cult following, which I believe that it does, probably. I mean, Mel's being able to find as many pictures as she could very quickly suggests yes, it's out there. But I'm sort of bemused that I had no idea. and to the extent of, right, it's like I have, here's the poster for the series that Netflix put out, right, and back in 2016. I have no idea what time frame we're in right now.
I
Um,
don't either. I'm lost since 2019. I'm still I'm still in a time warp, and now I'm an even bigger one watching all the nostalgia of this show.
well, this is what I find so strange. It's like
They did a good job.
I'm sort of bemused by the nostalgic effect of watching a show that's 9 years old, and therefore, for the people who watched it when it came out, is nostalgic. Right?
Ooh, yes.
Here
Layers
we
within
are. Here we
layers.
are being nostalgic about, of course, watching something that's set. I'm a little older than I'm more like I'm even a little older than the high school characters, not the actors, and we're not worrying about that exactly. But
This is so it's me watching this is it's so crazy because the beginning of each episode they'll put a date on. So like October 24th, 1983. And I'm like, I remember that day.
oh my, oh
I was a
my.
junior in high school. This is me. I was 16 years old.
Okay, so it's exactly hitting
I was
you.
15, turned
Yeah.
16. Yeah.
In
Yeah, oh yeah.
1983,
Gosh, hit me in the feels. Yeah.
I was a sophomore in college. So I'm just that
Mm.
little bit older, but it's I'm okay, the main thing that I was thinking is, and this is you can tell how much I love this because I already bought a book. There's scholarship on this, right? So now you guys,
Not a
never
big
mind.
surprise.
This isn't just cult film watching. This is cultural studies now, right? Palgrave Macmillan, which is one of the major academic publishers, and these people, edited by Tracy Mollett and Ridley Scott, they're in the UK, right? This isn't even just an American thing.
No,
There's
it's not.
scholarship on it in Britain, right? So now I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, right. So they're talking about in a number of the episodes how, and this came out in, they have a lot of Trump references in here, and I think this doesn't apply until season 3, which I have only started. So, this came out in 2021, and they're constantly talking about the problem of nostalgia, and I'm like, okay, so
Mm.
if you and I are the actual like imagined age of the people, the characters in the story, and the appeal of this series is nostalgic for people our age, Gen X. How is it I never watched it, right? It's like okay, here's the two layers of my opening thought, right? Is one, we're in this sort of, you guys, everybody's been watching this for 9 years. Okay, we're catching up, right? Which is funny because that means we're about 9 or 10 years. If the Duffer Brothers, when they wrote this, set in 1983, themselves were born in 1984. So if they were watching this in 9 years later, they'd be the age of the kids. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But that I'll say this, and I hope it makes sense. I had no idea that the 80s were a nostalgia trip for anybody, right? How did I miss this in the 2010s?
It shouldn't surprise us though, because back in the 80s, people were nostalgic for the 1960s.
In the 50s.
In the 70s, they were nostalgic for the 50s. You know, you had
Right.
movies and TV shows set during that time, and this series borrows very heavily from a lot of movies, especially Stephen King. And that itself is a kind of, it's a nostalgia within a nostalgia. I'm thinking of Stand By Me. Mostly it's not Stand By Me, but there's just one scene where they're walking along the railroad tracks. I'm like, oh, Stand By Me. You know, I keep seeing these other references, at least these visual references that they're using.
Well, the Duffer Brothers clearly have studied all of those movies. So this is, I mean,
very well, because they're actually integrated them all well.
Right. They're visually referencing, and they're integrating them so that even if you don't know what the movies are, you're enjoying their movie. Or
yes, and I think this is why you might have missed it, because it has been quite a phenomena. And I know you don't ignore popular culture, but I think you might have missed it because it looks so familiar that it's easy, at least in the corner of your mind, to go, oh, I've seen that, right? Yeah, I've already seen that. You have, because you lived in the 80s. It looked visually, it looked so good, and they borrowed so heavily from not. Well, no, I can't even say that. They created a wonderful, unique story that you can easily watch too. And the people in my house they're now watching it for the third time, like the whole series, and they're getting ready to watch the finale. But they used so many references that you would get from back in the 80s that I think it's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. which
Well,
is
I'm
why a lot of
certain.
younger people will watch it
Oh, but yeah, they're
more.
enjoying it, and so we watch it and say, I mean, sitting there in season. Okay, so we're talking about season 1 tonight, everybody. In season 1, when Mike's sister is wandering around in the house with all the lights on, and she's sort of staring at the blank wall, and you're just going, "It's coming! What? When is she gonna say
Yeah,
they're coming?"
there, yeah,
Right? Because
Poltergeist.
so it
And that movie, I was 14 when that movie came out. It terrified me, and
I
this scene brought it all back.
I went with my boyfriend at the time, and I was so terrified after our date, I wouldn't go home. Right? I was just, and I was
You
mad.
definitely wouldn't turn
I
the
was
TV
mad
on.
at him for. I'm like, I'm terrified, and he's like, it's not. I don't know why I was at his house saying how scared I was. Right? Why didn't he take me home? Right? But it was that movie
Yeah,
was so frightening.
it was.
Stranger Things was not nearly as frightening for me as Poltergeist was, but then I was, afraid of the abominable snowman and Rudolph when I was growing up. So your
Oh,
mileage may
really?
vary.
That's really sweet.
How scary this was. So
I was afraid of Nosferatu, the original. My dad had a screw loose letting me watch that.
the monster in this has a little bit of that in it, doesn't it? The vampire.
Nosferatu?
Yeah, this
Uh,
vampire terror. The teeth. It's like,
it was more like Predator to me. I didn't really see a vampire thing off of it. Although, well, no, see, he was attracted. Are we giving anything away? I don't want to give too much away.
it's 9 years old. If people haven't watched
I
it,
know, but you had never seen it.
and
Okay.
this is what was so funny is not only I'd never seen it, and I'd never seen references to it, except for maybe I had, but I didn't know that I was seeing references to it. I mean,
Mhm.
I find this particularly amusing, right? And especially when the scholarship seems to be, there's a number of essays in there where they're talking about, the differences between the audiences, right? If it's they're kids in the story, so is
Mhm.
it a kids movie, right? The degree to which it seemed to be, given how scared I was by Poltergeist when I was in high school, I'm not sure I
Yeah.
would have enjoyed watching this when I was 12.
And no, an older
Right?
kid maybe, and it depends on the kid for sure, you know? Um, but young kids, definitely not. I mean, oh gosh, I think that the thing that terrifies me about Poltergeist is seeing very innocent small children, under attack, and there's nobody there to help them, and the adults that should be helping them are either clueless or they're evil. And that's what makes it most scary. It's like there's a nightmare, but mom and dad aren't there to wake you up and comfort you. That's what it feels like when I'm watching movies like this. And
Right.
so I could not. My my family members here watched it very enthusiastically when it came out, and
Stranger Things, you mean?
Stranger Things,
Okay.
and I was very interested in it because of the look of it, but I couldn't sit and watch it from start to finish. I'm doing that now, but I would catch bits and pieces of it and have them fill me in, and they would tell me about the plot. But I'm just a big coward. I could not sit. It was so realistic. I couldn't sit and watch that for the same reason I couldn't really watch, and I still don't really like to watch Poltergeist for that same reason. I get identify with Winona Ryder in this movie a lot as this very protective mom, and rather like the protective mom in Poltergeist, what were these women thinking going back to the house?
Well, so one,
What?
that Poltergeist, of course, we know has some backstory on what happened to that little girl. Um,
Oh,
right. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's the shadow that lurks behind Stranger Things is quite layered and complicated,
Mhm.
right? It's like what we know about Hollywood and what happened to child actors, and maybe about Spielberg and all those references. And oh, if you've been on the internet at all in the last 9 years, right, the sort of
Mm.
exactly what level of reality horror was hitting these kids. And of course, if we study horror, that's one of the things that we're supposed to recognize. But happier thought, just before we plunge into the horror part. um the interesting thing about this is Winona Ryder is there as an adult trying to take care of them and not just
Oh, she is.
running
She
away. And so, one, okay, certainly we've referenced Heathers before on the Ark, and
Mhm.
Heathers is one of my great cult movies. I loved Heathers.
I
I've
didn't
been
like it.
Veronica
I
for
know
the
you
rest of
loved it.
my life, right? And Christian Slater, after having been in and it's wrong to say that she was a bigger star than he was, because he'd been in Name of the Rose.
Oh,
in 1984.
oh, no, I'm sorry. I was talking about, Johnny Depp. That was
We
a
were
different
talking about Johnny
conversation.
Depp. Yes. Johnny.
We were
Oh,
talking
that's
about
right.
Edward Scissorhands.
Okay, so
Yeah.
which of our particular crushes from when we were that age was in which movie that we've been talking about? And I was very struck with how Ryder does. I mean, she's doing a great job at being her age in the movie in
Yes.
Stranger Things. The Mike's mother character is trying to be desperately younger, and as we learned from season
Yeah.
3, it gets a little hot, but
Right.
just a little.
Because she is much older than her husband, and she's feeling a little, you know, wild Odie, I guess.
I, somewhat right, but
Yeah,
but
somewhat.
but that
Yeah.
that that uh Ryder as Joyce is the age that she's supposed to be for being his mother, and
Yes.
it's just like it was so wonderful seeing her comfortable in that like place, right? It's like this is what I'd be if
Yeah.
I was in my mid
Well,
40s.
she's a very good actress. She
Amazing,
is,
amazing.
like,
And
super confident.
this is the thing. It's like the audience, the level of audience appeal for what age, for which year of nostalgia we were participating in, and how we fold back in onto our memories of all of the movies that are referenced in this. And there's 0 point in our, thanks to the fandom, presumably because I haven't found it all, yes, except for Mel, that the fandom clearly has been going through this series for a decade, nearly a decade now, looking at for all the references, right? But
Yeah.
we know they're all out there, right? So you guys, you can footnote us and tell us all the but you said, okay, so this is what interesting. You said you have not watched it, did like I did, which was sit down and watch the whole thing in one go.
Straight through
You
one
haven't
go.
done
No, I
that.
didn't do that, and, I'd have seen entire shows, but I was more likely to, like, poke my head into the room and say, "What are they doing now?" You know? Because it is a really good story. Yeah, so I'm watching it start to finish, like, I'm binge watching it now because you said, "Hey, let's" 2.5 days ago, said, "Hey, let's do the stream on Stranger Things." I'm like, "Oh, I gotta do a review now." So I sat down and started, watching it, so
But you are
almost
not, you're talking to me right now. So by definition, you're not binge watching it right now. Binge watching it.
I stopped 50 minutes ago. Seriously, I've been binge watching it for days. I'm almost through the entire second season.
I'm sorry, the plural of time that you're using there, days. Are you kidding me? Hours, hours, and of course,
I gotta sleep sometime.
no, you don't. You turn it on, and you see you see the kids at the beginning after we've been in the lab and watch someone be scooped up. You see the kids at the beginning saying, "We've been playing for 10 hours." Talk about
Yes.
the setup of what you're supposed to do with this long movie. You sit down and you stay with that game until it's done 8 or 9 hours later. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
the script, it's scripted into the story.
I could start a new fan fiction rumor and say the entire thing was just one game of D&D.
You're too late. They already know that.
Did her sort of come up with it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's I mean, there's of the essays that I really enjoyed in this. I'm about halfway through this book. There's a whole one on talking about the it's Bastos. Something is coming, which is like saying how the narrator for the dungeon master, like Mike is in the set in their play, is making it
Right.
exciting, right? And so you have this kind of the Stranger Things itself with the Duffer Brothers as your your dungeon masters are talking you through by way of their screenplay.
Yeah.
The monsters are coming, right? And Basto's subtitle is "The Screenwriter is Dungeon Master of Stranger Things," and it's I did not play Dungeons and Dragons, so but I had friends who would play RuneQuest, and they would go off for days and come back like these guys. They were in college though, so
Yeah, 10 hours is pretty normal, actually.
these are no,
A lot
that's
of
the
things.
thing. So
Yeah.
the timing on the series fits with what it would be like to sit in one of those games for 10
Mhm.
hours. You're inauthentic already.
I'm already late, see? I'm slow.
Well, okay. So, well, yeah, so Mel is saying the last one might be a bit more challenging. Each episode is almost 2 hours long. And I hear
Yeah.
they're not going to release it season 5 all in one evening.
Nope.
Yeah,
2
so
2 at a time, I think. Is it 1 at a time or 2 at a time? Old fashioned, like the 80s.
Well, possibly. Binging takes 4 days a day for each season. Yes, right, exactly. You
Yeah, it
do it in a
does.
week. Um, and okay, we've got some chatter going on in the chat. What will
I'll
we
bet.
think of season 4 in its entirety? We'll let you know, but we're starting with season 1 right now. Okay, so now having praised the whole thing effusively and talked about, the way in which it captures our memories of high school and the time play and stuff like that, we have to start with the major unhappiness. If you worked so hard, Mr. and Mr. Duffer, yes, Mr. and Mr. Duffer. What's their names? I wrote it down. Matt and Ross, right? Matt
Okay.
and Ross, young men, right? They were in their 30s when they started this. Oh my gosh, these genius kids. Um,
Yeah.
They clearly knew their film. They knew their references. They have their costumes. They've had, there's a tab can in the scene right now where the kids are playing the D&D. They know their D&D. They know everything. Why on earth do they think we will be fooled by filming this in Georgia?
It fooled me until you mentioned it.
No.
It fooled me until you mentioned it, and then there's one scene where they're in the woods and there's a palmetto bush, and I went,
I'm sorry. It
that's on
fooled
the
me
coast.
not for a second. And by the time that Will gets home on that first night to this house, this Stranger Things house, right? I'm like, okay, and this is a funny thing that they kind of like set it up like if you're in a dungeon, right? So I did the right dungeon thing. I did what you're supposed to do, which is scene awareness, right? Perspective check, right? Which when you're in the game is because the dungeon master is telling you the stuff that's around you, right? And you might have your grid on your table with the plot of the dungeon or whatever. But just as Mike is doing it, he's narrating all of this stuff for his players, that they're supposed to ask for things. I mean, this is part of the like engagement with the dungeon master. He doesn't necessarily just like tell you all of the stuff that you're supposed to know. You need to think to ask it
Yeah.
a lot of times. And so thinking to ask, like, what do I see? And why does Indiana in your story look like Georgia?
I think the Georgia Pines are a dead giveaway,
And
right?
I'm Googling it, seeing filming locations for Stranger Things, Georgia. And I'm like, guys, why set this in Indiana instead of Georgia? Why not just say it's in Georgia? Anybody? Okay, so and this I'll say this massive, like, you broke it for me completely. The fantasy was gone. I know you're in the wrong place. When I was in it, I started high school before we moved to Texas. I was in Louisville, Kentucky, which is right south of Indiana. I know what the landscape is like. You would freeze to death in this house.
I think I know why they set it in Indiana, even though they filmed it in Georgia.
I don't.
I don't think there is an actual national laboratory in Indiana, but there is one in Georgia.
I mean, come on, we're going for verisimilitude. Don't you think everybody believes in the aliens now? Why couldn't they just like have us looking for them at Hawkins? Does that exist?
I'm sure it does somewhere.
I started looking it up, right? It's like Hawkins. Okay, so let's see. I've got binge viewing, gaming, 1980s, time, place, check. Right, okay. There is no Hawkins, Indiana. There was apparently a Hawkins associated allegedly with one of the the detail. They get so many details right. Like the lab is run by the Department of Energy. Yes,
And they've got their own army, and they had one. Yep.
can confirm. I mean, the labs in New Mexico that I grew up around with my uncle working at them, right? They're run by the Department of Energy. So yeah, right. You're doing weapons research at the Department of Energy. That's totally accurate. And apparently, sorry, I've lost it in my cards. I even have cards. This is so me in the 80s doing like note cards for my research project.
And now, yeah.
Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which is in Tennessee. There was a Hawkins, allegedly, according to Grok. Who knows? Maybe it's made up. I don't know. I couldn't tell with how do we know what's real anymore?
She'll be going on a road trip soon. Mark my words.
Good idea. Anyway, the other thing that I found out when I was being incensed with the lie about the location is the Mr. and Mr. Duffer grew up in Durham, which is right outside Research Triangle Park, which I also, in 1998, 1999, when they were 14, if they were still in Durham, I was there in the Research Triangle for a sabbatical leave, right? So again, you had so many places you could have picked that would have bothered me less. Why did you try to pretend Indiana was Georgia was Indiana? I want an apology now. You broke my intensity of streaming and imagination. I was Googling instead of like watching your show. So there.
She's fact checking you.
I'm fact checking you. but what's interesting about the cult level of the engagement is the claim that in fact this is what you're supposed to be doing. Right. So, we've said here's Joyce and Hopper at the table. Right. They got so many things so right. And you're meant to end up as like, which are we? We're the adults. These are people that are younger than we are in real life, but they're younger than we are now in this scene too, because it's 9 years ago. But that we as adults now watching ourselves as children, as it were, because we're Gen X watching the 80s.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. It almost feels like watching a home movie. It's really a very strange feeling. As I'm looking at their sets and I'm like, I don't know who they got to do these sets, but how did they get in my aunt's house?
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
I've seen that I've sat on that couch. I've seen this coffee table.
The coffee table in Joyce's house.
I think everybody has one. Everybody had one like that.
Everyone had one like that.
The constant smoking was definitely a thing too.
And the smoking.
Absolutely.
And
smoking everywhere at all times. A kitchen table especially.
Right.
But even in the office, that was definitely a thing.
Well, I love it. I love in the warning that Netflix gives you. It's like gore, da-da-da-da, smoking.
And smoking. Oh, that always cracks me up. I'm like, oh, you wusses. Come on. A cross-country trip with 2 parents that smoke in the front, okay? Jeez, I lived.
Been there, done that, driven across, the middle of the country with my dad, playing not Hopper because he was a surgeon, right? But the guy had the mustache. Yes. So I do love that there's insofar it's Mel, you were right. It's an amazing series, right? And the thing is, it's like none of this is there by accident. It can't be, but because as people have regularly pointed out, if you're making a movie, right, you've got nothing ends up in shot that you don't mean to be there, right? It simply doesn't. That all of this is purposeful, and so even the things that look and feel like accidents, somebody made a decision about to put in that scene. And I do say if there's a meta level here, which is sort of humorous, right? Now, so I started out saying, do you think you can be nostalgic for a time you've never seen? And I'm like, yeah, it's called history. That I find it interesting to claim, this is cult because it's nostalgic because it's the 80s. And I'm like, what do you think like Merchant Ivory costume dramas were? We're constantly being like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Nostalgic for these periods that we are we representing them accurately? Or this is my entire graduate seminar yesterday in studying medieval history, right? It's like we're reading Johann Huizinga's Out of the Middle Ages and trying to understand how he saw the paintings in Bruges he wrote the book in 1919, so it's after World War I, which he thinks of as the Great War, and he's nostalgic for what he imagines the 15th century was like on the basis of seeing all these paintings. It's like and claiming that the modern historians are always getting it wrong because all they do is their documentary history, right? And because he figured out the way to get into the passionate intensity of their emotions and stuff, is going to give us a more realistic picture of the period. And I'm like, wow, let me tell you about this television show I was watching.
Yeah.
That this desire to be in the past is it's incredibly powerful. But because we have all these movies of the 1980s, the illusion is, it's like walking into a Van Eyck painting, right? Could you find yourself in heaven in the Ghent altarpiece, right? Can you find yourself in 1983 in this television set? Or how about like the Christmas party, right? This is Nancy and Steve next to the Christmas tree, and he's in his nice
Sweater.
his sweater, right?
Sweaters were a big thing in the 80s too. I don't know why, they just were.
That kind of sweater and a Christmas party at the
Yeah.
end. I nearly fell off the couch, but I was sort of I was sweated to the couch by this point from having eaten too much ice cream. It ends with a Christmas party that could have dropped straight out of one of those television shows. That to me was the most interesting, realistic callback to the period.
Yeah.
Which is of course all about Christmas lights anyway, but it's still there. It's like what counts? Yeah. So the boys are playing their game, and that's me right now, right? Going, I've seen it. We're there. We're in this story. How do we do that? What do we do with being in the story? The bike. Say there's the game. There's the bikes, right? I mean, everyone's responding to the bikes because I guess it was on the posters, but riding the bikes around the neighborhood. And when I was in Louisville, that would, one, you're again, this is how you can tell it's the South because there's no sidewalks. I hadn't thought about that until just now, but it's clear they're biking around a town that is not in Indiana because south of the Ohio there are no sidewalks because we had none.
Suburbs all over the country a lot of them don't have sidewalks. They always
we do in Texas.
Didn't on the West Coast. That wasn't a thing. The ones that were built in the 50s through the 70s, they didn't have sidewalks. They were made for cars.
We loved not having sidewalks. We thought that was so cool because it meant you got to walk down the middle of the street, right? And be tough. And you're like, we owned our neighborhood in the same way these kids do, right? The trick or treating in season 2 and stuff. It's like, yeah, this is but the landscape of the suburbs and the being able to bike around at apparently some distances that they are. So Sanjuro was asking us at the beginning what we would think about the okay, I've lost it now. It's right at the beginning. Kids on bike genre, being the abandonment of kids, particularly.
It wasn't abandonment. It was the age the kids were. They were in middle school, and I think they just nailed it perfectly. The relationships between these kids and how they acted and talked, and you were given some freedom at that age.
Maybe yes, exactly. I mean, like the Vox is always saying, oh, the you know where your kids are kind of thing, as if the parents had forgotten them. That wasn't, I never heard it in the way he's hearing it, because what I thought I'd see those notices on the television or something, and I'm like, yeah, we could have been anywhere. It was great.
Yeah, we could have been anywhere. We didn't have, there was no phone to track you, and it was, the lights are on, go home. Yeah, you're not allowed to be out after dark. So because bad things happen to kids after dark. Look what happened to poor Will.
Well, indeed. But I mean, what we did, I think I've talked about this before, that we lived in a neighborhood that you could, our biking or our walking, my pretending to be in the Lord of the Rings, as these kids are, going through Mirkwood. Oh, that's in The Hobbit. No. Whether or not anybody in 1983 generically would know the Lord of the Rings, right? That my game at that...
They would, because of the Rankin and Bass. I'm sorry, Rankin and Bass.
This is a good point, that A Hobbit was on television at this point. Hopper is clearly not watching enough television. That we would bike down to the pool or walk, and we had swim practice at night. So a lot of time I was coming home when I was this age, a lot of times, in the dark, right? And I don't remember being particularly worried about stuff in our neighborhood.
Yeah, it depended on where you lived, but I think in general, people lived in fairly safe places. If you live in a suburb and you could ride your bike, that's why people moved to suburbs, because they were safer than cities. And if your kid was like 12, 13, maybe even 11, you were given some freedom. A bike meant freedom. It's right. In fact, in one of the episodes in season 1, somebody says that, well, they're close by. A kid wouldn't leave a bike like this around. It's like a Cadillac to a kid. And it was.
Right. Yeah, because it meant
like having a car.
You could get around. I could ride, the older you got, the further you went.
Hmm.
we moved from Louisville when I was in ninth grade. So when I was 13, because I was a year young, and because I had to tell you that because it's important. um, but I remember when I was 12 or 13, biking a fair distance out of the neighborhood to other neighborhoods. And you feel that, right? That but Hawkins is supposed to be, although it's set in Georgia, a single town, right? So they're not actually
Hmm.
meant to be in the suburbs. They're meant to be in a town
Yeah,
that
they're
is,
more like in a small town. Yeah.
yeah.
Which is but their house, well, because they filmed it in a suburb, their houses, it looks like a typical subdivision
Which it
in the
probably was,
80s.
except it's in Georgia, and I'm going to keep reminding you of that. The other
I'll have you
iconic.
know.
Nobody's going to forget that it's, the Professor Folder Brown was upset that they tried to. Well, the thing is, I dislike when Hollywood plays these location games on us as if we don't know the middle of the country. And
Hmm.
obviously they played the location game with us with different cities, right? As if you don't know the landscape of the skyscrapers, right? You don't know the
Yeah,
skylines and
I think you're
such.
meant to suspend disbelief because they just have so much set up for filming in Georgia already the way they do in California. And this gets the California end of it is the butt of jokes a lot because they'll film things that are supposed to be in England and it's, California. They made a joke about this in Austin Powers, This is amazing how this looks nothing like Southern California, the English countryside.
Right. But
No.
the thing is, I think of the illusions that we're talking about, right? It's like what's real and what's through the portal. One of the significant things that television and movies constantly do is give you a wrong sense of place, which I think is what this whole series is actually about. And the sort of problem of time and the where is the upside down, right? How are we grounded anymore? That's a
Mm.
meta theme, I think, right? So that they've displaced it and tried to make me believe that a landscape that I know. My dog comes from Indiana, right? I know what Indiana looks like. It doesn't look like anything that you put in that series. And so this sort of interchangeable places, oh, flyover country's all the same. It doesn't matter where you are. Yes, it does. It actually matters a lot, especially in a series when it's set in the landscape.
So if they had said it in North Carolina with the implied meaning that it was supposed to be Research Triangle Park, would that have been okay with you? Even though they filmed it in Georgia?
It's closer. At least it's the climate is somewhat similar, right? And therefore the houses and the landscape and such are it. But do you not? I mean, I get it, right? That they're always lying to us. That the American Southwest has played all sorts of places
No.
over
Well,
the century. But I
I went to
wonder
high.
about the meta effect on us in media terms about constantly telling us believe this is not where it is.
I don't really think that was the point. What they were doing, the houses, particularly Nancy and Mike's house, looks a lot like the houses I saw in Maryland when I was in high school at this time period, and it had weather similar to Indiana. It was just freezing cold in the winter, really cold, bitter cold. So, I mean, they did exist. So I don't think they meant anything by it. I think it's if I had to take a guess, it was just easy to film in Georgia because it was cheaper
Well,
and it
yes,
needed to
that's
look
practically
American.
why they did it. And it needed, but
Yeah.
that's what come on, they go to the trouble of airbrushing out buildings from the Chicago skyline in season 2, really, right?
Oh, do they?
Yes, they had to have because most of the
That's
Chicago
funny.
skyline has been built since the 1980s. And if you
Okay.
watch,
They didn't have to take a vista shot.
but they must have, right? So
Hmm.
I was wondering that and showing my husband, it's like, was that building here? We had to look it up, right? So we're doing the situation awareness. It's not situation awareness. That's not what they call it. Um, the D&D thing is like when you go into a different part of the dungeon and you're supposed to ask the dungeon master to describe it for you. So you're actually paying
Yeah.
attention to all of these details that people are constantly saying it's referencing John Hughes movies as well as Steven Spielberg movies. And one of the John Hughes movies that I watched recently, because I was doing a Steve Martin run, was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Hmm.
And they get to Chicago. It's actually filmed in the 80s or early 90s. Now I can't remember. But the skyline's totally different. The city and the city that it was when we moved here in 1994 is now utterly transformed. So if this was
Mm.
filmed in 2016, 17, they did go down to Michigan Avenue and they filmed a lot, and they managed, this is season 2, sorry guys. They managed to costume everybody in a way that it looks believable as the 80s, but to make the city look like the 80s, they had to do something to that skyline because the skyline is entirely different.
Okay. I don't think I got to that one yet.
But people would be bothered by that, don't you think? I mean, people would be bothered if the Twin Towers were
Well,
still in New
yeah,
York.
New York is, probably more famous for that reason. The skyline. It to me, the skyline. When I see pictures of it now of New York City, I don't recognize it.
See?
It's that different when those towers are down and the other new buildings that were put up in its place or around it, because it was quite a bit of construction that went on over the last 20 years
Right.
that wasn't at that particular spot. It's really, really very strange.
Well, and the Trump Tower is here now as well. I mean,
Every
along with,
town's got one.
yeah, but along with a lot of other big glass skyscrapers. So
Mhm.
the problem of our nostalgia, like a nostalgia for a time when, again, season 3, the mall, right? Um, is what it we're a good deal of the nostalgia is okay. I've started the season 3 and they're in a mall. I looked up the mall. It's apparently closed now. or
Aw,
or
makes me
parts of it
sad.
did.
See,
No,
that makes me
it's like it's gone through a whole life cycle, being new in the 80s, which actually was apparently built in the 80s and then went on hard
Mhm.
times and such like that. Um that for a show that's about that kind of architectural transformation, again, it's one of those we need as a culture to be paying attention to where where they're pretending we are. And I don't take this mildly, and for reasons that I will stop belaboring and we will carry on. On the bus, right? So the bikes are one image that I
Yeah,
absolutely remember. The school bus was another genius location, right? But in this school bus, it's in the junkyard, right, rather than
yeah,
when they're riding to and from school. But that they find it. Excuse me. They end up on a bus as a refuge, as your sort of fort, or that I mean, truly, it's
mhm.
like wonderful. All these liminal spaces, right? If you're talking about the liminal spaces of the kids traveling through the neighborhood on their bikes, or in a bus that's not moving because they're hiding. These
Mhm.
are all just like really cool, symbolic choices that they made for staging this story. So,
Mhm.
see, I can be mad about where they filmed it and still like what they did.
Yeah, the junkyard, it's a place where everything's decaying, so it's a little bit like the Upside Down, where
Right.
everything looks the same, but it's decayed.
Well, and
Not
that
sure what it means.
that kind of it's got to mean something. So this is my thought is right. It's like so we're sitting here trying to figure out as the boys are when they're talking. 11's around by this point, and now they're trying to figure out what it is. What's happening?
Mhm.
What do they need to know? How do they figure out about it? And I have it's so enjoyable to be watching a show that is clearly making you want to ask these questions about
Yeah,
location, about
it's
I mean, it's
fun.
almost even better, right? It's like maybe that's it, right? It's like we're gonna keep telling you it's Indiana, but I'm refusing to be gaslit. How's that? Right?
Yeah.
It's not Indiana, it's Georgia, and you can't make me think that just because you keep saying it. So there, I've lived through the last 9 years, and you're not gonna get me to say that. I will not lie. It's not Indiana, it's Georgia. Haha.
Okay.
Well, but no, the thing is, it's sort of a what in our moment are we now supposed to do and this is a show about the media environment. It's so cool. It's so many layers of genius, and it's as if the plane of Dungeons. It's like this great McLuhan like level of everything, right? The
Yeah.
plane of Dungeons and Dragons, which was about setting yourself in a landscape and imagining yourself into it put in a story which is shown on a streaming service, which is then about um, finding yourself in the internet and doing with the internet what the kids do in their game, which is try to figure out what's going to attack them next. It is so cool.
Right. I find their communications on the I think it's CB. It's not just walkie talkies. They're like really expensive ones that they use to communicate with each other, and that 11 uses to communicate telepathically. She can control the radio. I think it's on radio waves.
So all of these things about the right. So when they're reading for significance, right? They get here's Mike on the, I think they're walkie talkies, and I think you're right. They do look like pretty good ones. Although
Yeah, they are.
Mel is saying yes, it's funny that the kids have walkie talkies to talk to each other and not to their parents. So it's the walkie
Yeah.
talkies are this private network. It's not like
Right.
it's not like your iPhone that tracks you everywhere and such. It's only you can track each other with it, and you have to be on the right frequency together with it, with the walkie
Mhm.
talkies. Um, but you were saying some stuff about the other so much of the story is about being able to communicate across these different media. So the walkie-talkies, and then Elle can talk to them through the walkie-talkies. They're in the ham radio club.
Yeah, it's a ham radio, right? And but Elle is actually also uses it when they put her in the tank, and she goes to spy on some Soviet diplomat, and she manages to project what she hears through their I guess what is it? It's a PA system, like a public announcement system
Hmm.
in the room where they're listening. So they're taking everything down, but they were kind of surprised by it. So it's kind of like she's riding these radio waves around the world,
Yes,
which is
yes.
crazy.
Is the Russian thing in the first one?
Yeah, since season one,
Like,
it's in a flashback.
there's something about the Russians in the third one too. So you know, I'm now confused about which
Well,
season I'm thinking of. But
well, Russia's very prominent in all four, well, all three, 4 seasons. Yeah, they come out of the fifth season, in all 4 seasons, because the whole reason Elle was put through what she was because they were trying to produce a super spy. She was supposed to be a super spy.
right. Yeah, it's interesting that that's one of the things that it doesn't feel like they were able to do with the same level of conviction as the suburban setting. The feeling of the Cold War seemed to be
Well, the Cold War, she was always in a very cold room. She looked cold,
mm,
and it was featureless. And I just, mom kicks in, training kicks in. I just want to run through the TV and put a blanket over her. She looks freezing cold. You know, This is very hard for me to watch kids in distress in any kind of any fictional setting. I don't like it.
mm,
It's probably why it works so well. To draw people in, because everyone has very strong emotions about it. But the institute she was in was very cold, so that was a Cold War thing. I think
right.
that was a definite artistic choice. Also, it tends to look like an insane asylum, an insane asylum,
Hmm.
or just a very sterile clinical place. Um, yeah, the last place on earth you want any child to be subjected to.
Well, all of that worked for me. I'm just saying the Russian part doesn't, which I found interesting.
But though that's the 80s. That was the height of the Cold War. It was ramping up, and it was somebody was about to win it,
I
and
know, and
they
what I'm
were.
saying is they don't manage to capture that terror. They don't manage to capture the thing I
Oh,
remember.
no, no, not in the first one. I mean, there wasn't any
Yeah.
terror. It was more a game of cat and mouse that you were watching. The terror was through the eyes of the children, what they were being put through, and then what everybody else was subjected to because of the mistakes of the people running these experiments.
Well,
But
okay, so
yeah,
I want to get to that because I want to talk about who L is and what that means. But this specific point is this is at the level of the sort of how much have they captured that feeling of the 80s. And I remember, I mean, we had things like the cartoon thing When the Wind Blows come out, that was like 83. It was around the same time as the Hobbit movie came out, and it's a it's a cartoon about a couple that are in England, and the bomb goes off, and they sort of waste away and die, and they don't really understand what's
I
going
don't
on.
remember that.
Well,
Hmm.
I do, right? It's like this is what I'm saying, that the actual fear that I remember having about how we were all going to get blown up because the Russians were going to, nuke us. Interestingly, the the series doesn't capture for me.
No, I totally get why they didn't do that, because that was the point. While you're all being distracted, being terrified by a nuclear war, this thing is happening right in your own town. Um, the experiments are being conducted, and we're trying to infiltrate on a level you can't possibly understand. So it was almost like, yeah, they're not going to. The terror of a potential nuclear conflagration wasn't the point. The point was what's happening underneath. What's happening in the upside down world of espionage right here in your town, right here in small town America. You're not supposed to know about it.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, in season 3, the Russians show up.
No, I know they show up. I've seen it.
Okay.
You're not spoiling anything for me.
Under the mall, right?
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah,
this is
introduced. Oh, everybody's terrified of a nuclear conflagration. They were also very aware that spies were very active at that time, and I do remember that.
that's what I'm trying to say. I remember that, and I remember that when I was that kid's age, right? So the interesting.
I remember. I remember both. I remember there was this awful manipulative television miniseries called The Day After Tomorrow or something like that.
Yes, like that.
Yeah.
So somehow there's
Yeah,
no
but
references to this stuff.
it would have been a distraction
No,
because this was
they've got so they've got little pieces that are like clues and hints and stuff constantly throughout this thing. Why couldn't they have a news reporter saying something about, and the Russians have, and the Soviet Union is, whatever. It's interesting that it doesn't even show up in the background.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure it was necessary though. I really don't think it was necessary. Yeah, we'll have to disagree on that. I think they handled that well.
Chat, what do you think? Who agrees with me? But this is, I find this interesting as which elements of the period do we think are essential to capturing what, right? We're looking at some of the pieces here, and we have the wizard standing up against the Demogorgon and such. And you're saying, okay, so horror is about fundamentally finding the clues to the things that you're not able to see, right? So that's and I of all of the things I remember actually being frightened of in the 1980s, getting blown up by nuclear bombs was the real one. Other stuff, we had AIDS, which apparently doesn't show up in the show because we've passed.
It wouldn't have showed up in small town though. That was accurate. That was a big city thing.
Well, we were talking about it in college in Houston. So that,
yeah, college is like a mini big city though.
Well, it was Houston too.
Yeah, that's not a small city.
No.
Yeah, you've got a small town and a bunch of people who are, normal, and then something is going on right underneath their nose, right underneath their feet, and they don't even know about it.
Yes,
the upside, right on the edge of their town.
Upside down, which was genius.
Right.
If they're trying, so the kids now are looking at the board, and Alice flipped it, so it's like it's on the other side, right? It's this. Okay,
right.
What's on the other side of something? It's like flatland, but there you are. It's flipped over, and this is where I'm amused that I have not been deluged with memes about the upside down. I just, given how much we have been talking for a decade now about the conspiracy theories and the horrors and the things that we haven't been able to see, that nobody has memed this. How is that possible? How have I missed it?
Memes, but what meme were you looking for?
Well, I don't. So because like the upside down is where the horror happens, right? And predictively, this is where this show is very interesting. We're saying, okay, it's nostalgically, whether it's accurate about our childhood or what. It's something from 2016 well, they're making it presumably 2014, 15, right? 2016. And it is spot on predictive of the kind of feeling of being haunted and gaslit and having this darker mirror world constantly hovering on the edge of our perception for the last decade. It's like this is hands down, flip the board over, the single best metaphor that I have seen for what we've just lived through for the last 9 years.
Hard for me to see that because I I was a bit like more like one of the kids, and they just weren't fooling me. But you're
Hey,
right.
you
I
still
know a
think
lot of
it's
people who
okay that
were.
they're making Indiana pretend to, or Georgia pretend to be Indiana? I'm gonna.
The film industry's been doing that for 100 years. Come on. It's not new. I
But
don't think it's a slight. I don't think it's a slight against Middle America. I really don't.
I do.
In
I
fact,
remember when
I think
they canceled the Beverly Hillbillies and all the great, rural shows, right? To give us All in the Family and the Jeffersons. Come on. They did it on purpose. They knocked out the middle of the country.
I remember my father being really upset that they canceled Star Trek. Tell me about that. Because based on, he said, Nielsen ratings from the Midwest.
See, blame the flyover country. Okay, so
Well,
this
was it correct though?
this is interesting what I am most struck by is the metaphor of the upside down and the feeling of having this alternate. It's not just an alternate reality, right? I think it's something else. They've created something really conceptually fascinating. Is
It looks like hell. It's really terrifying, and you feel icky and dirty just looking at it.
Hey, I've been there.
To hell?
No, to this upside down, and it hit me big time in, let's see, in 2018. Absolutely horrifically big time, when my department told me that what I was doing was not history, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't watch any shows at this point, because for years I couldn't watch anything because everything I watched turned to horror. Absolutely everything. I couldn't watch. I mean, maybe the weekend I found out, I was like watching film noir with Humphrey Bogart, which probably was a big mistake, but I'll watch something set in Mexico, and I'll end up with on like the one where he steals all the gold and kills people, and I'm like, no. But the thing is, I couldn't find anything else. I couldn't find cartoons. I couldn't find it, because every drama always has that moment where the stuff flips, right? You've got the setup and you've got the disruption, and that disruption for me every single time turned, okay, now you're lying to me. It's horror. I can't take it. And that we've lived through this. I mean, everybody must have been hit by this. Maybe you were, which is why you're helpful to me. But
Okay.
the rest of us, it's like, when are people being hit by the lies that we're told about the vaccines? When are they being hit about the lies that are told about, whichever lies we're in? James Delingpole, I was just listening to him last night. He's on the other side completely, right? There's literally nothing that we've been told. Never mind Indiana is Georgia, or vice versa. Georgia's Indiana. Nothing that we've been told is what's real. And this is, of course, what the big problem in the 80s kids movies is your parents are lying to you.
Yeah.
Every
and that's happening
single
and that's
time.
happening in real life now.
Yeah.
Right. They're being told at schools, your parents are lying to you. Right. We care about you. Your parents don't. Shh, keep it a secret.
The schools are telling us.
Since when do schools tell children to keep a secret from mom and dad? Well, they tell them the exact opposite. You never keep secrets from your parents, because that's how other adults take advantage of you. But now the adults are taking advantage of them. So yes, you're right. It's topsy-turvy that way. It's upside down.
Well, it's in the real horror that we're in. And it's like, of course, as I'm watching this, wondering, I think one of the reasons I hadn't watched it was because I was worried that it was going to do that, right? It was going to take you into the actual upside down of telling the kids lies, which they do constantly, I hear, on Netflix, which nobody watches anymore because we're also mad at them about the grooming that they're doing. Of the children, of the child audience, that they're luring in with stories about independence and right. I was worried that Stranger Things was going to do that, and I'm still a little worried about it based on some things I've seen about what happens to some of the character developments. But at least in season 1, the adults are trying to find the kids. They're trying to look out for them. The science teacher is going to help them understand stuff. And
there's some good adults in this, which is nice. They're not all bad. All the bad men are literally in one place, which makes it very handy, right? It's very black and white that way, which is refreshing.
Yes, and of course, then I start reading in the Investigating Stranger Things, and of course, they talk about subverting patriarchy and stuff like that. Apparently, Hopper's a bad dad in season 2, but
he's not.
No, he's not.
He's not. He's a very scared dad.
Right. And that Papa in this one as the scientist is
Oh, that I got to say something about that. That was such an obvious reference to grooming. The way that Papa raised Elle to be terrified of everybody else but him.
See,
Like everybody was
is
cruel to
Stranger
her
Things
but
actually
him.
on the side of the angels against the grooming? Could it
I hope
be?
so.
Praise God that we actually found a show that shows the true horror that these kids are being subjected to. I have theories, or
Yeah,
at least
I could just I mean, Matthew Modine did a really good job. Every time I look at him, I get creeped the hell out. It's like I don't even want to look at him.
Well, but this is, I mean, the upside down that we've been told about the Spielberg stuff, right, is actually really, really frightening. And what happened to that little girl in Poltergeist, the actress?
I've heard
I'm not going to
rumors
say
that
it out loud.
people
The,
yeah, I've
the
heard
rumor
rumors that
about it is horrible. But the thing is,
yeah,
that's the upside down that we've been living in, of the stories about what happens in Hollywood, the stories about what happens to child actresses. I mean, Judy Garland really did have a terrible life, right? Because she was tormented on the
yes.
set of Wizard of Oz.
She was tormented.
In terms of
But yeah,
like
her
they
mother
teased her
feeding her
about being
drugs.
fat and she
Yeah, her mother had her on amphetamines from a young
yeah,
age
yeah.
to keep her skinny, which was awful. She was a beautiful, beautiful girl, but she wasn't a skinny girl.
Right.
But
And I
yeah,
think
her mother said you kept her on amphetamines and she had a lifelong addiction to it and died young because of it.
right.
Really, really horrible.
So Hollywood has had a long upside down in terms of the way terms of the way it's treated its child stars.
Mhm.
All right, so the layers of self-reference in the reference in Stranger Things. It's like, can you start? Okay, one of the things that Mel said she was really upset by was that the cute guy is a peeping tom.
He's totally a peeping Tom. Jonathan was a peeping Tom.
Well, I think that this show is trying to show you what you are as the viewer too.
Are you still making excuses for him?
Not well, okay, so look, he's taking photos of Nancy taking her shirt off, right? What do you
Yes.
if every single Netflix show that shows a naked actress has done that, and you're sitting there in your living room comfortably not being able to be seen as a peeping tom watching.
Yeah, except I'm not comfortable with it, and I wish they'd take it out of those scenes.
But
I
the thing
really
is
do. It's
that
just
but this is where it's like the layer of like where the I don't know what these duffers are up to, right? And I don't know enough about their backstory to be able to intuit
well, you did.
who I think that what they're doing.
Let's be clear. They didn't show any nasty pictures of Nancy. It
No,
was
no,
just
no,
her
it's just her
back.
back. Well, I'm showing it now. It's like, and it's that grainy, sort of
Yeah.
picture that he's also showing you what you as a viewer are doing if you're watching this movie, right? And so it is potentially very interesting because he's clearly a peeping tom in the scene.
Yeah.
So the meta level of you watching yourself watching, looking for clues, is you are too. So, I mean, like, is this stealth virtue? Could the horror here be actually virtuous? It's we
Jonathan seems to be enjoying
well,
it for half
and
a
so
second
we
there.
have to be trying. We're deep in the dark room developing this idea, right? Okay, so I have some the pacing ourselves through the things that I was most obsessed with right now. We can project some of the things that we hope at some point to be able to get to talk about. For example, clearly the show is incredibly important about the way the friends group develops, right? The different levels of the 4 boys and the 3 that are looking for Will, and then how they incorporate Elle, and then in season 2 what they do with Max, and how the dynamic of the different kinds of relationships that they're working out, I thought was really valuable. They're also doing some great stuff with Nancy and Steve, and then the 3 of them, right? Nancy and Jonathan and Steve. And that kept surprising me. I was impressed at how they don't, I mean, they have to have Jonathan and Steve fight.
Right.
Some point out Steve always loses he's willing to get in all these fist fights, but he's constantly getting beaten up. But that he ends up in the battle scene in the house.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Well, but it's actually good because I mean, so she gets the gun, right? I'll go back to the gun picture. Right, she gets the gun, and Jonathan has made that. Jonathan made the
Baseball bat with the
spiky
spikes.
mace, yeah,
Yeah.
which looks to me like a reference to something else, but we'll carry on. But it when they're fighting against the monster, it's Steve that's using it. I think he ends up with
Yeah.
he ends up because he's a baseball player, right? So he knows how to
Right. Well,
swing it.
he grabbed the weapon that was there because Jonathan was being strangled to death by the creature.
Right. Yeah.
But with the fact that he ran back in, it was really lovely. They showed him twice, like having second thoughts about being an asshole, right,
Right.
and doing something nice to try to fix it. And so when she tells him to leave, he's like, "I'm out of here," because this thing is scaring him to death. And then he sees it's coming back, and you're like, "Well, what's he going to do? Is he going to run away?" And
Right.
in the end, he couldn't bring himself to leave them. So he went back to help, and that was when I fell in love with Steve Harrington.
Aw. And he is very sweet in season 2. So, but
Yeah,
I didn't expect this, right? Because you could just set it up. He's the jerk, who,
right. And
who,
that would be the stereotype.
and
He's
that
the
would be the
rich jerk
stereotype.
driving the BMW.
Right. Right. And then he isn't, which I think is very,
Or that Jonathan's the poor guy and therefore is automatically 100% virtuous. He's not, right? He has
yes.
second thoughts and changes and stops his peeping Tom in the middle of peep and goes, "Nah, I shouldn't be doing this," right? And just leaves.
Yep.
But so I love that they kind of subvert expectations with this because it's better and the characters are richer for it. And it's nice to see virtue
It is, and
develop.
it's real virtue that's developing. It's choices that they're having to make under stress.
Right.
And their character. It's like the we also have the Hopper and his cops don't get to do very much except that there's one fun meme where it's showing it's like these are the kids grown up, right?
Yeah. And they come
But
back and to travel back in
travel
time.
back in time to help themselves. But that
Yeah.
Hopper seems also to be going through a nice um I mean it's not just character arc, it's actual like testing and um you're right
He
that
hasn't
there's
grieved his he hasn't grieved his daughter. He gets to do this by
right.
helping Elle.
Right, right, because he's been lying about what happened to his daughter and not telling anybody.
Mhm.
And so I'm just, particularly in season 1, absolutely delighted by how rich they've made all of these interactions, and we could talk about all of them, but we wanted to read for meaning now, go deep in, deep in. More on the horror and what's actually in there. Oh, Mel says I'm on the right track. Doc gets it. Wait for my next. Oh, when I'm talking about racing the buildings.
Oh, right. Chicago.
Oh, that's right. So, Mel is saying Elle. They keep saying Elle is a Russian spy. Elle spies on a
Right.
Russian
In season
technically
2,
in
they
the
kept
void. Then,
right.
yeah,
Right, because if there's a national laboratory there in the 1980s, then yes, they would be worried about spies. That was a real thing. It
right.
still is.
Well, so this
Yeah.
is what it's interesting. I'm wondering what they're going to do in 4 and maybe 5 because the Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been on people's minds. So
Ah,
the degree to which they need the present anxieties to draw on to make real or make realistic the anxieties of the period that they're portraying. So Mel is agreeing with me. She was saying I would have never known that fear of the bombing. I didn't pick that up from the season. Oh,
no, I
she's
had the fear. Yeah, I had the fear of the bombing too. But what I'm saying is, it would have distracted from the main thing they were trying to highlight, which was that there's an even more immediate terrible thing happening right underneath these people's feet, and they don't even know it. And that actually helps. That helps increase the anxiety in the audience watching it. It's coming. The call is coming from inside the house.
right. But okay, so for example, Mel just said Wheelers are supposed to be Reagan supporters, right? They do stuff like they
Yeah.
have all of those campaign posters up. I mean, it wouldn't
Hmm.
it doesn't need to be something that takes over the story. It's surprising that it doesn't feature in any of it, except for me these fairly ineffective ways. It's like they're not really capturing the Like you could have in the school a poster saying, what to do in a nuclear attack. I mean,
We didn't have them though. Did you have them? And I lived right next to a reactor, so
well, that's why they didn't tell you. They didn't want you paying
no,
attention.
everybody knew it. We had a siren, and the joke was like, yeah, everybody, put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye because
Hmm. Hmm.
nothing's going to stop a nuke from killing you. This is not an atomic bomb, which was devastating though it was, far less damaging than a nuclear weapon. They're more powerful.
Right.
You haven't got a chance. So once you accepted that, you just lived your life.
Well, that is actually accurate to the way I remember it, right? It's like it was always there. They
Mhm.
were constantly trying to make us terrified of it. And yet you were like, well, I guess there's not much I can do. And
No, there
which
isn't. Yeah.
which I guess is very different from the gaslighting horror we've lived through with COVID and the lockdowns and stuff, because that was, you must do this something, right? There is this thing that you have to do, and your actions, in this context are going to be
I will forever call them the home imprisonments.
the home imprisonments. There you go. So the home imprisonments were, it was like the kind of operation that it seemed to me they tried to do in the 80s against us, but that this time it worked because they really, really convinced a lot of people that if you don't wear the mask when you take your dog to the park in the middle of winter and nobody's out, it's dangerous, right? And you're like, this is insane. And I mean, so which of us was able to see the upside down before, and which are just now? With the first time you start seeing it, that's when the horror hits. Eventually, you're more like your response. It's like, well, yeah, of course they're lying to us.
Yeah. Well, I knew, and everybody knew immediately, and there's a psychological thing going on there, which they try to use in the series too.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they try to cover something up, they'll
Right.
right. Barb's car is missing. She must have run away.
All of that,
That's
yes.
kids run away all the time. And then when at the end of season one, when Will is rescued and they say, "Aha! I see he wasn't dead. You buried a dummy." And then in as they're walking through the middle school, you see the message board, and there's newspaper clippings up there, and one of them said, local coroner falsified autopsy is arrested.
I missed
So
that. Well
yeah, that
spotted.
was a good one.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So see that, there's like, and one, it's like this
It's
obviously the
yeah, it's a big psychological operation.
so what kind of psychological, now this the horror, right? So the big thing that I was thinking as I was watching it, having read E. Michael Jones's Monsters from the Id, right? Horror, particularly through the, and I did a video with him too, which you can watch on Unauthorized, about this, right? The problem with the horror
I did
movies.
have to watch that again. It was a good one.
He talks about Frankenstein and Dracula, and then Aliens, right? And
Mhm.
Aliens, back in the 80s, or maybe early 90s. No, it was early 90s. My husband and I watched, I think, 3 Aliens in a row in the theater.
Mhm.
We were
And
so
Paul Reiser was in one of them, and he's in season 2 of Stranger Things.
Paul Reiser was in Aliens?
In the second one, yeah.
I have no memory of that because we were so terrified. And by the time, I mean, by the time we got out of the theater, it was like hours and hours and hours in there. It's like we were like the adrenaline. That's so bad.
Oh, you saw a
Just
triple feature in a theater.
yes, a triple feature
Oh,
in a
awesome.
theater of the Aliens movies, right? So it's like I'm ready for EMJ's argument about what these horror movies are about, and it's like it's all about sex. Absolutely, clearly, right? Particularly the Aliens movies, he's arguing are all about abortion because they're all about the fear of the eggs and the face impregnator thing that sticks the baby in the guy's
Well, I
stomach and
think
it
yeah,
bursts
I
out, and
think
it's all
yeah.
the horror is getting over. Well, but what Mike says is the horror movies help you. They feel cathartic because they're giving you a way of facing the thing that you're not able to talk about, which is that you
That
actually
makes
are
sense.
doing this thing that's evil. So Mary Shelley's with Frankenstein, that she's in this adulterous relationship and has no, actual marriage because Shelley is actually already married, and
Mhm.
Dracula, quite bluntly, is about syphilis and the sort of hidden, danger in the blood, and it all is,
Wow, I
activated through
really need to listen to that
sex.
again.
so I am,
What is
and this is,
that?
and Jones he's talked about how the 80s, the 70s and 80s horror movies, the babysitter is the, main character, like Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Um,
Right.
who is the monster punishes the teenagers for having sex
Every time.
every time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you think Barb is going to be, right? Which is why it's the sort of surprise Barb element of the story, which apparently they weren't going to use, except for, she's first victim, I suppose. But
Hmm.
there was so much fan response to her character that they turned it into a thing in season 2, that, finding out what happened to her and such, which is a good twist,
Right.
right? But that when they've set it up so nicely in the opening of this, that when Barb is talking to Nancy about, well, Barb at first seems like she's like, oh ho, you're going out with him now, and then of course she ends up in the um they end up in the time when Jonathan is peeping and taking pictures, and so they actually
Right.
figure out what happened to Barb. So there, it's useful,
Yeah,
right?
she's the fifth wheel who is just who. Yeah, Nancy used her for a ride to this party, which was just for two people on 4 people on dates with each other, and
Right, and
so
Barb is the fifth wheel who gets then eaten, right?
right, she gets eaten, and so yeah, Nancy is like racked with guilt because she eventually they find out what happens to her, and then she just can't bring herself to let poor Barbara's parents go through their entire lives looking for their daughter. And
Right, but
so
that was
yeah.
apparently not scripted into the original plan for season
Was
2.
I'm asking, was that the feedback they got? Because, like
Yes.
you said, it could be very cathartic. It's like, yes, please give these people some peace because everybody's heard terrible stories about parents that did die still looking for their missing children. So
Maybe,
it's great.
but
Yeah.
more that there was sympathy for Barb as a character, and it's interesting that there's sympathy for her because, of course, she gets the scene cuts, and so they're great. Their editing is great when they juxtapose stuff, because it's always like, this side by side interpretation that you're doing constantly. And so
Hmm.
when Nancy and Steve are kissing, and Barb's getting dragged into the pool, and you have
Oh, right. Oh, that was
the erotic
harsh.
gripping of hands, and Barb getting dragged into the pool, and this back and forth, that's the classic what's supposed to happen in a horror movie when teenagers are having sex or not, right? I think
Yeah.
they're supposed to be just kissing at that point. I'm not sure.
No,
But
they're not just kissing.
but he's still got his pants on. Come on. It's a kid's
Okay.
it's this I come on, I know when to not
I'm
look and when
saying
I'm
nothing.
watching Netflix, and trust me, I've seen more butts than I
No,
needed
I'm
to.
happy that they had the actors keep their clothes on
They
because
had the
again,
actors
it's
keep
like
their
I hate when
clothes
they do that.
on.
I always feel bad for the actors. I really do. It's just an awful position to put them into, and I don't want to see it.
Well, and
But
they
I think the
apparently they
implication
think
was
everybody
they weren't
else
just kissing.
does. And in this scene, it's you think that, so they keep flipping things on. You think who's going to be the bad guy or the good guy in these, and so Steve is set up to be totally completely, I mean, he's like what Billy becomes in season 3, that you think
Oh,
Steve is going
yeah.
to be that, right, that he's going to be the just the rake, who not even a good
Yeah.
rake like Christian Slater and Heather's, right? Whom Jonathan actually looks a little bit like. Okay, never mind. Yes, we've been making comparisons. How did they find these actors that look so much like they're whatever, the younger older version of themselves? That if this was a classic horror movie of the kind that EMJ talks about in Monsters from the Id, all of this would make a different kind of sense than they ended up giving it, right? Because it's surprised the monster should have dragged off, I guess, Nancy, not Barb, because Barb was one sort of being virtuous, but maybe not really. It's hard to say, right? Because
She
early.
wasn't being unvirtuous. She thought she was going to a real party, so she was just treated very badly. Like nerdy plain girls like her do get treated in high school.
And the
Um,
fans all wanted her to be avenged, which is interesting.
that is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Decades of Mean Girls have taught us you you don't
Yeah,
get
Barb was innocent. Yeah.
right. You don't just get to be the one that gets to just like, she's not the first Heather, right? She's the first Barb. So
Yeah.
they're already overturning certain kinds of expectations. So what do we do with who Elle is? And this is, I think Elle is I've got L and then the lights, and then we get to maybe what's going on in the deeper level. But who L, right? Let's focus on her as a
Hmm.
character. Well, okay, so John Abrissy's asking, is it because we've just about exhausted storylines? Writers need to keep jumping the shark with sex and violence. Well, okay, so this is what's interesting. Stranger Things doesn't, at least at this point, right? The exploding rats in season 3, yes, I've watched them. Yeah, maybe. But those I think are references to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Anyway, um,
Hmm.
the rats.
Didn't
Rats
see that yet.
actually, this is actually completely accurate historically. When they built malls, rats came out. They were building a mall in Amarillo when I was in high school there, and my cat had a field day, literally killed rats constantly because
Good cat.
when they dug the foundations for the malls, all the rats in the neighborhood had to relocate, I guess.
And thus was born the phrase mall rats.
Well, they were there, right? And then the people came. So the jumping the shark, this is John, this is what we're talking about, that it feels like Stranger Things has managed to make us see some of this stuff instead of just intensifying it in the same direction. Right? They flipped it. They flipped all sorts of things. And the horror that they keep showing is the real horror. I think I think it's the real horror that we've been dealing with. So who is L? Um, do you have opening thoughts about Elle?
Well, maybe for the next, my opening thoughts about who is she really? Who is she symbolic of?
Don't go there yet.
I didn't think you wanted me to.
Just who would we think Elle is, right? She gets nosebleeds all the time. She's postmenopausal. I get nosebleeds
Oh,
constantly. Oh, yeah.
yeah, she's a
Whenever
girl
she
who
thinks too hard or nosebleeds, I'm like, I can confirm. That's an interesting detail that they
Hmm.
gave her, right? Okay, so
Yeah,
right. So obviously she's got these psi powers, which is
right.
um
She's she has a she's psionic powers, they call them. So telekinesis and telepathy. Um, it's more than that though. I mean, she can make people not alive if she thinks hard enough, but it nearly kills her when she does it.
well, yeah, because I think she flings them, right? So that's her. So these are
More than
powers.
that,
These are
she can control their organs.
oh, well, so these are the kinds of powers that one of the underlying horrors that the movie the series is playing with is whether or not Dungeons and Dragons was diabolic, right?
Yeah, that comes out in season
The
4,
alleged
I think.
satanic. Well, there was a satanic panic around Dungeons
No, it
and
absolutely
Dragons.
was, and people were well, evangelical Christians in particular, the born again Christians as they called themselves back in the 80s. They were obsessed with demonic influences on the young. D&D was
Right,
one of their targets.
right.
Heavy metal was definitely another one of their targets. Good grief, you know, really super vulgar rap hadn't even come out yet, and for a couple more years. It used to be fun, kids, believe it or not. But yeah, that was definitely a target, and I do remember it.
Well, and that
That was a thing.
she's potentially, again, I'm getting some of this from the scholarship that I read, that she's the kind of character that is the terrifying child, right? And so it's apparently pedophobia is a thing. I had not seen this word before. That this the
Being afraid of children?
yeah, these guys use it in the book.
Huh.
That
I never heard that.
saying that a lot of these 80s, 70s, and 80s movies are about terrifying children, right? And so I don't know
Scary,
if this yeah
fire
if
starter.
this fits EMJ's
Yeah.
horror template of we're terrified of having children at all, right? And you hate children, and what's funny is I mean, my dad left us. No dad. That was bad. Um, we were in the neighborhood. We got to bike around. Blah blah blah. Blah. The being afraid of the children. That's an interesting problem, right? To say that
Mm.
in the 70s and 80s, instead of seeing us as um well, certainly the parenting in Stranger Things seems to be somewhat better than I remember the stereotypical problems at the time.
I thought they had a pretty
Do
good
they
mix.
talk? Yeah, in the movie, in the
Yeah,
series, yeah, they have a mix of the dad that falls asleep all the time on the lazy boy,
right.
and Joyce, who is going to find Will and not let him
Right.
be like vanished, but is divorced. So there's also that layer. But then there's
Right.
Elle. So Elle can be just like straight up terrifying, spooky kid,
Mm-hmm.
which then is ramped up with the fact that she's her. We find out her mom was part of an MK Ultra experiment.
Right. And she was, yeah, and they were feeding her LSD mostly, and she didn't know she was pregnant. So after she had the baby, they stole her, and she tried to steal her back, and they destroyed her brain. They basically electroshocked her into a lobotomy, which is very sad because she tried to save her daughter.
So what I find interesting about what you're able to show in 2016 is that this was all actually real, and I didn't know it, not in the 80s, right? It's like,
But MK Ultra,
no, I'd never
well,
heard of. I mean, why would I have heard of that as a kid, right? You were saying
right.
I'm pushing on saying we knew about the bombs, right? The stuff the CIA was up to.
Do you remember a Disney movie called Escape from Witch Mountain?
Oh yeah, I loved it. What are you going
Right.
to tell me about it now?
The government was chasing after the children,
Yes,
trying to get them before they got home.
they were
Because they
star
found out these,
children though. They had a star
right,
chart on her purse.
right.
Yeah,
But they also had these powers, and they knew about it, and they were trying to capture them.
exactly.
What did Disney know, and when did he know it?
Well, so this is what I find that Stranger Things intersects more. I mean, I don't remember what I don't know that I certainly wasn't as plugged into the conspiracy theory history network as, at least meme wise, I am now, in sense of knowing what people are talking about. That I now, and maybe from 2016, this kind of thing that the CIA was doing is more common knowledge. I've been reading Elizabeth Nixon's accounts of her mother was put through some of these experiments too. Apparently in Canada,
Yeah,
which is
she mentioned that. Yeah,
and she's doing some pretty ruthless reporting about, the way, like, talking about pedophobia. They've been abusing children, and adults, it sounds like, too, for a long time with these psychological experiments, which they say now are the basis for how they're able to do the kind of propaganda and media manipulation that they're using on the general populace.
how would that help
How would that help
them
what?
achieve? How would that help them? How would a secret MK Ultra program help them control the general populace, unless the general populace had itself been put through that?
More the generic, fair. The generically, they've been testing ways of different kinds of persuasion, and the drug stuff was the most intense, and certainly
Yeah.
I was to a some extent aware of the drug level stuff in the 80s because I was in college and we all had them, right? And you had access to, I don't know whether you did. I had
No.
I had the right friends to play D&D, and we may have
No, I'm sorry. I'm Barb. I didn't get invited to those parties.
we may have watched Altered States, which again, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
and I read the Carlos Castaneda books about his drug trip, the alleged anthropology stuff and the drug trips that he was doing with the Mexican shamans and stuff like that. And I've mentioned that I shopped at that, occult bookstore right off campus in Houston that Marianne Williamson also went to, right? This was all around the
And it still is. In California, they're still doing, this is supposedly big in tech world, to do microdosing of LSD.
Yes,
And
exactly.
they all report these creatures.
Say more.
And they all have the identical descriptions of them.
What they look like, the monsters in Stranger Things?
No, there's something like Mel will come in with the right word here. There's something like elves, or gnomes, or something. Or yeah.
I love that there was a throwaway thing about someone stealing garden gnomes at the beginning of season 1. I'm like, what happened to the garden gnomes? I wanted the garden gnomes back.
I don't remember that.
I
have one. He made an appearance at BaseCon.
Hopper, the guy who plays Hopper.
No, a garden gnome.
Oh, a garden. Oh, your garden gnome. Sorry, golly. I'm like, which story are we in? There's in the Law Dog Chronicles or Files. that Castelia published, one of the hilarious stories is about the rich kid driving through the gardens in the neighborhood and running over the gnomes constantly. So it
Oh,
maybe tickled me more than the average viewer. That they'd be used, so the drugs are out there, and we're much more aware, I think, like in the alternative conversation world, of the degree to which, I mean, they're using drugs in, well, Tucker Carlson was talking about this with a guy who's writing a new screenplay. Ooh, I've lost track of that name person. They were talking about the drug use in the rock music
yeah, I
industry.
saw that interview too. Yeah, it was a good one.
Right.
I'm really sorry I don't remember your name. I'll have to
We
look it up.
forgot your name, sorry.
It was very good.
But
I just
right,
remember
so
he said he was the grandson of Robert Blake, and I thought, wow, that's cool.
and he's the one you're referring to that was talking about how the guys in Silicon Valley are also doing all of these,
Yeah,
thinking that it's going to help them with their AI.
it's going to expand their minds. Yeah, I actually read, Mel reminded me of that first, and before that interview with Tucker. But yeah, I think she first told me about it like 2 years ago. She brought that to my attention from some of the articles she'd been reading.
Well,
Yeah,
Jordan
so it's been out
Peterson
there for
has
a
been
while.
talking about it constantly for years, right? He's mentioning, oh, they're doing intense experiments with psychedelics, right? So the thing is, I think certainly since the 50s, there has been an
Oh
intense,
yes,
um, scientific interest in understanding the mind by way of these levels of manipulation, whether with, I again, when I was in school, even in middle school, I remember getting a book from the library about ESP or something, and
oh
and
me too.
and
I
I'm
used to try to
reading.
practice it
Me too. See?
because I saw Escape from Rich Mountain, and I went, oh, that looks so cool. I want to try it.
Right,
Yikes!
that's what
I
I'm
couldn't. I
that's what
wasn't any
I'm
good at it.
and considering the degree to which all of this, we've been talking about this on the Ark for years now, right? All of the storytelling that we're immersed in is, we've got Papa talking to Elle with her hairnet on, right? It's like all of that is like going into our minds. We're always worried about that now. What effect is the story that you're imagining yourself into having on your
On your audience,
well, on
yeah,
yourself, on your soul,
and
on
on
your
yourself,
on your
yeah.
spirit, right? And that Mel Freudian slip, I don't know, Freud, right? We can do another, we can do Freud later. That Elle, at some point ends up being terrified that she's the monster, right? And the thing is, in there is a mirroring there, that she was the one who, because when she was in the isolation tank, opened up the rift in the world that brought the monsters
Right.
in.
But they were
No
also training her to
metaphors
kill.
there.
But she did kill. She killed in self-defense. But I think part of her feels like a bit of like a monster for that reason. But
She
with
killed the bunches of people. Yes, they were the bad people, right? But the problem of, like, what kind of hell have I released? I mean, I think this is accurate for kids. Certainly, this is one of the things I remember from the period, right? The children of divorce all go through this as it was my fault.
oh yeah,
If only I hadn't been, whatever bad child I was, my parents wouldn't have broken up. And I certainly had that thought. I don't know that I dwelled on it. I can't remember. I could look in my diaries. They're all about saying how fat I am. So, your mileage cannot vary. This is the adolescent girl experience. That children of divorce, and this is well documented now, because all of us got, thrown through it in the 70s and 80s, and we've all grown up and now can talk about it. Most of the kids that had parents divorce went through this kind of self-doubt and trauma, and convinced that they were the cause, because
mm.
it's easier than thinking there's no cause or there's nothing I could have done. It's like it actually makes you somewhat more, like, at least makes you an agent in the situation rather than just
Yeah, it
a
gives you a little
victim.
bit more control back. At least
Yeah.
you feel that way.
If only I could stop being a monster then, right?
Mm.
But then they do something very interesting for her. They put her back in the pool. This is where it gets deep. So here Hopper and Joyce are helping her. She's got her.
Hmm.
They're in the school. She's gonna lie down in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got her arms out in the pool. I don't know. I think the Duffers have some iconography in the background of their minds here.
Yeah. I think so. A pool of blue on top of it. Yeah.
What?
It's a pool of blue. That the
It
color blue I think is important.
well okay, so one, those pools all do have blue bottoms. Those kiddie pools that you just fill up in the
Mm-hmm.
backyard and kills grass. But that she's in pink, which is nice.
Look, the pool looks like a portal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is a portal because that's what they're using it
Right.
for her. That and this, I mean, this is one of the clear references to the altered states because
Mm-hmm.
who was the guy in that? I see him.
Jeff Bridges.
No,
Wasn't it Jeff
it was
Bridges in
somebody
Altered
else.
States?
No,
No, no, I'm sorry. It was the other guy. We
it
get
was
those
the
two
other
mixed up.
guy. Right, it was the other
They
guy.
all they resemble each other, but yeah. Yeah, the other blonde guy from 1980. So,
We remember anyway. So he uses an isolation tank to do his trips, right?
right.
And he's convinced that because of whatever his mind is doing, he's actually traveling. And in Stranger Things, Elle does travel into the void or the in between place or whatever it's called, Veil of Shadows. Do they keep
The void.
do they call it different things, or is it just it's different
They
from the
said it's
Upside
like,
Down, right?
yeah, it's the void. It's a flat plane.
That it's where she can go in her attention or
Your mind. Yeah.
not her imagination, just her attention, because it's actually real what she sees.
Mm-hmm.
But so this pool becomes a portal for her, which is very interesting. And then there's all this stuff about Joyce and the lights. I just got to tell that was I mean, it's like it's Christmas lights, and we end up with the Christmas tree at the end. So
Right.
that she's able to. One of the better memes that I've seen that Mel showed us is what talking to a ball of lights creates emotionally gripping scene. And I thought
Yeah.
about that afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's true.
Yeah.
You
Very
believed
true.
that she was talking to Will. I'm like, wow, good acting. That's really great. But this, nothing but here's your child has become a ball of lights that you
Yeah.
talk to.
And it's white lights. And I think that's an important artistic choice they made because it means it's purity.
Yes.
He's a very innocent child. And he's the most sensitive one, the youngest, most sensitive, kind of the weakest, like a lamb.
Yes. Yes. Mel, I confirm you got the answer right in the chat. I will say it out loud later. It's not showers. It's the other thing you suggested. So this, but the lights thing is very interesting because we've been, here's now the lights talk to her. She talks to the lights talk to her when she does the alphabet. And I'm like, have these guys been like mainlining McLuhan by this point? Because it's all straight up talking about the medium as the message. The electric light is pure information. If there are footnotes to this screenplay, and you guys are not already into McLuhan land, you picked it up straight up, right? It's this feeling of everything that this story is about is communication, and this problem of media. Where is reality in our interactions with each other, and that she's able to talk to the ball of lights, which is symbolically beautiful and white lights, but it's that he can, because when they're in the upside down, they have effect on the electricity. It's a saying, aha, we are in our it's not two worlds, right? It's somehow there's a connection by way of the magnetic well, Hans could help us explain whether it's waves or fields, right? Fields and energy, and the part of
now you've done it.
Yeah. What do you mean? The scientists are on board now, right? But the scientist, when he's sticking that hat on Elle and saying, I'm going to access your brain, right? When the brain access is obviously all through the language and communication and media, which is what's happening to us while we're watching this game that's playing out in this story, which is showing us clues, which is about communication and attention and imagination. It's so good. It's so cool. So to the point where she's filled her entire house with lights, because if I'm in the light, my son will be able to talk to me. It's so and the thing is, when she's doing it, you can just feel the set director, the set decoration guys behind it, because obviously Winona Ryder did not put these lights up, right?
Yeah.
The set guys did, and boy did they have a good time.
Yeah, I liked the effect where they would flash very erratically and quickly, and the whole house would like flash, and it looked like danger, like a warning sign. But
Right.
when she was talking to him, they would just very gently go on one by one, very quietly. That was a really nice effect.
All of it. But do you see what I'm trying to say about they're trying to give you, it's there's certain kinds of things that I'm recognizing, and this I'm struggling with in teaching my students now, because we're supposed to learn to write history, but our understanding happens in the intersection of all of these different media. It's not just in writing. It's not just, and this is interesting, of course, and when they're doing their research for trying to find out what's happened, and they have to go to the library. I love that when they have to look at the microfiche or check out books and stuff, right? The media there of like the information network that they're in is that one that you and I grew up in, of the card catalog, and
yes, it looked very familiar.
The only access you have to information is through the printed books. But now we're in the light. She's in the internet. She's able to communicate with Will through, I mean, talk about the portal. The primary portal that we're in constantly in our minds right now is the internet.
Like fiber optics.
Yep.
Right?
Like you and I are right now talking.
That's right.
Not embodied at all. We're in this disembodied it's like, and she can't talk to Will. He's not there anymore, but he's still alive. I mean, the anxiety, maybe, it's like your kids leave home and you don't know whether they can talk to you anymore, right? Because you can only talk to them on the phone. My mom went through this trauma when I'm in England doing my graduate work in 1986, and the only you had to use the payphone to talk, and it was super expensive, right? And no way to be in contact. And now you would just like do it on the internet, and it wouldn't even cost you anything.
I know. Yeah, it was insanely expensive to make long distance calls, and transatlantic calls were even more so.
I had to buy a card, right? And you could talk for like 20 pounds for like 10 minutes or something. It was horrifically expensive.
Yeah.
So in the period in which this is set, this feeling of being able to communicate through the light, I mean, there's a real nostalgia of, do you remember what it was like not being able to be in communication, but also this visualization of the kind of environment that we live in now, which is surrounded by all of these electrical, all of the electricity that's McLuhan level network that we live within, the extension of our nervous systems into the world by way of the electric. They completely used this and wrote it into this
interesting
engagement that she's in. Yeah. So that when she and Hopper go into the upside down, they have to go to the library, which I missed. Mel actually labeled this one for me. It's like and you see they're in these lights, right? And that in the upside down is all, it's the clue that you're in it, right? Is all of these little floating lights, right? So huge major theme throughout all of this of the when we are in, I think this is when we're in the internet, where are we? And there is a horror to it in this upside down sideways. You get to it by turning on the side of the cable that the ant walks on kind of explanation. Yes. It's an excellent description of the sense of, is the internet a real place, or is it the upside down of us, or is it the sideways, or where is it? Okay. And what is it, right? The no face. So now I put all my pieces of evidence out. Maybe I'm getting there. Let's see.
I just noticed the picture of Joyce walking through with all of the webbing of lights above her head is the exact opposite of the upside down that is covered with these filthy vines everywhere that are
Exactly.
all dark.
Go back to that. Yeah. When she's in her house of light, it's the opposite of the upside down, which is also
Hmm.
vines and all covered with lights. But it's like the same place. And
Right.
and the problem with horror, which I was trying to explain, that I had my moment of going through it when the world like shimmered and turned bad, is it is the same place.
Yeah, it is the same
It's
place.
the
Right.
exact same place. There is no
What
other
do you see when
world.
you look
It's
at it?
it's it's you and your mind that takes you there, which is why
Hmm.
Elle is so powerful. How do you get there, right? Well, so okay, so the no face guy is interesting because it's like the monster is unidentifiable. The horror of the
Hmm.
monster is it has no face. It's not.
Right.
It's not. It has no identity. Or I mean, they call it the Demogorgon, so it's there. I mean,
Hmm.
Demo. I wonder. It's like the Demogorgon. It sounds like it's supposed to be half Gorgon, but I think Demos is people, right? Like Demos Gorgon.
Hmm.
I don't like I said, I don't know enough about the Duffers to know how much to read into their um some of their details. The guy the scholars in investigating Stranger Things seem to be freer with that kind of speculation than I'm like. I want to do the Tolkien level of stuff here. It's like, do they talk about why they
Yeah.
name, where are the names coming from, why the names there? Because I do want to know why. When we find out why he has no face, it's because it's his mouth, right?
Right.
And that
His whole head opens up into a
his
mouth.
whole head opens up into a mouth, and Elle is able to fight him with her mind, right? Which she has to use her
Yes.
hands to do the sort of power moves, right? But that we are up against a monster that is, well, flower faced.
Trap flower face. No, it's even
It's a
worse than that. Yeah.
flower. It's a flower, right? And I did look this up. They think they took it from like Venus flytraps and stuff, right? And so it's meant to be
Hmm.
horrifying because it's kind of plant-like, right? And so the other thing the upside down is all
Yes.
roots and vines, right? You say it's
Yes.
the
That's how it spreads.
underground. It's the world underground
Right.
that we would be in if we were dead and being, decayed and turned back into soil.
It's worse than that though. It seems to have taken everything good and perverted it into something filthy. Everything clean into something filthy, everything bright into something dark,
Well, then,
everybody
so
living into
what is
something dead.
it? This is it. So here we have it's Nancy's hand coming out of that tree, right? So
Yeah.
the place where the portals get more interesting in the second season when they keep bursting through walls in the school.
Well,
And
it's the
coming
vine.
out
So the
from the
vine is
coming out of the iconography on the walls, right?
yeah.
But,
The vine is spreading throughout the entire town of Hawkins
yeah.
underground and it's starting to break through.
Mm,
What was interesting, I just picked up on this just because I just watched this one episode right before we started
right.
streaming. Look at that, I'm catching up. Was that when Will was obsessively drawing because he couldn't speak and couldn't describe what he'd seen because he was too traumatized,
Right.
and he was just obsessive with the crayons, and they started putting them together, realizing okay, these go together. That's just one big extended like thing he's drawing, and they tape up all the individual pictures and it's Bob who says, "Oh, it's a map. It's a map of Hawkins. I recognize this lake." I'm like, "Oh, he's writing a D&D board.
Yes.
He's drawing it."
Yes.
That was fun.
He's drawing a D&D board. He's drawing where they are. He's like
Yeah.
the I think this. I mean, so I've watched 1 and 2 and started with 3, but the 1 and 2 they do beautifully this problem. I thought 2 was got a little bit too much. The upside down felt too much like it was literally just underground. Whereas I think,
It starts to, right.
yeah, I think
Right. But
in one,
I think it's sorry, go ahead.
in one they make it they make it the tension is more sustained about exact. It's not really where it is, right? It's not just underground. You can't just dig down and get into it. There's something else that has to happen. before you
But Hopper did dig down and get into it. So I think what's happening is
into,
we've been looking
yeah.
up CERN. Looking at CERN, Hadron Collider memes too in
Mm,
preparation for this story. But the idea is that yes, this Elle says I opened this up. She opened up another dimension, and the dimensions are kind of smashing together at this point.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So the smashing together. Now I am um hypersensitive to the true horror, the true horror I understand is about. Another of the things that they seem to be referencing in this show is it.
Oh yeah,
Stephen
for
King's,
sure.
particularly when they find Will and his mouth is filled with a snake. Oh my
That
God, that's
was
a little bit obvious.
well, that was straight out of Alien.
Well, it's straight out of,
Because
I mean, it's
Alien
like
did
they
that.
have to kill the snake that's going down his throat. And
They do. They have to pull it out. But
excuse me,
also
they've talked about his being gay.
yeah, later. That was stupid. Yeah.
That was in the. I just rewatched season one. It's the first thing Joyce says, that her husband suggested
Right.
that they thought he was sensitive and gay, and
Right.
we need to find him.
So yeah, it looks like child abuse.
It looks like
Yeah.
child abuse, which is of course
But
what it is about, right? Stephen King's It
yeah,
is
so
straight up about the kids are being abused, and
there was a fun
that's what they Billy, it's not Billy, the guy who has
Bob.
the diner where Elle is when he first finds her, and he
Oh,
says,
that
"Were you
guy, the guy who
hurt?"
was killed. Yeah,
Right.
right.
So there's always an undercurrent in this of the kids are being abused.
So when Bob was driving Will to school, that's Sean Astin's character,
Mm-hmm.
and he tells him about these nightmares he had when he was a kid, and he grew up in Maine.
Mm.
About this, there was this clown kept showing up in my dreams, and he
Clown.
kept
Yeah.
terrifying me.
Yeah.
Right? There was this red balloon, and it floated by, and so it was all these references to it. And he said, and I just told him, he said, "Go away, just go away," and then the bad dream stopped. Right?
Right.
And so, of course, Will tries this, and it doesn't work. He becomes completely possessed by whatever this entity is in the Upside Down,
Right.
and now he has a psychic connection to him. But yeah, they were putting I think they were putting every Stephen King reference they possibly could into these movies. But yeah, it's yeah, that was an ugly scene. I do like the way they had Hopper having flashbacks to his daughter and having the tube down her throat in the hospital as she was dying.
That's true. That and yes, there you could say whether that's, you know, I mean, at the time when they pull Will out of the wall. Sorry, spoiler alerts, guys. It's been out for 9 years.
Yeah,
When they pull him out of the wall and Hopper's remembering the medical team trying to revive his daughter
right.
with CPR,
And
but he
right,
does succeed in waking Will up, and they don't succeed in waking his daughter up because she dies.
right. Well,
So,
she had cancer pretty bad. So
but I mean the layers of horror there, right? It's like, is it a breathing tube? Is it something sexual? Is it alien? Is it the okay? So we haven't gotten to him being possessed by the dark in the next one, the mind flayer,
mhm.
right? But the
Oh no, he's been possessed in season 2. I'm not up to season 3
he's
yet.
definitely possessed in season 2, but in one, right? It's first he spends a lot of it hiding in his upside down castle, right? So he has his castle,
Right.
and I think I got this idea from one of the essays I read that Will actually is like he's the one who has to be rescued, the princess character in effect. I mean, there is an interesting gender dynamic in a lot of this, but I don't know that it goes in the places the scholars I've been reading want it to go. But at least in this, that Will is, the fragile, sensitive one, and he's been hiding in his castle and gets taken, right? And so his mom and Hopper
Oh,
have to come
yeah.
and actually rescue him. But the I mean the horror in things like it is the kids have to stand up against the adults who've been abusing them, which
Yeah.
we say, Elle needs to with Papa.
Right.
But like the sort of subtext of what kind of abuse potentially Will is struggling against is very interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, well, how about it's like let's be even more obvious with the tree gate. Oh my gosh. I mean, we don't have
Yeah, that's
if
where, and they pull
horror
her
is
out of it.
all,
It looks like,
excuse me guys, if horror is all about sex, these are too clear, right? Or maybe I just see too many medieval images of the side wound, which everybody in my field reads as vaginas. Oh, there we said it.
well, no,
All
when
right.
Nancy was pulled out, it looked like this tree was giving birth. It just,
Always.
yeah, it was really, and she was covered in goo, and it was really hard to get out of it.
So, I mean, one of the places the upside down is inside women.
Inside, well, does it have to be inside women? It's inside a monster.
Well, okay,
What
so
are they saying?
yes, indeed. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Where do we go with this? I have not yet found anybody saying this absolutely overtly, but it seems to me with all the goo and the slime and the gooiness, and a girl near puberty opens it up.
Well, she's well past puberty, but
No, not Nancy, the other one, Elle, right? She's not
oh,
when
L,
she's in
okay.
the isolation tank, and I mean, if if we're doing just straight up horror and coming of age, all of the upside down is clearly the horror of where do you come from, right? Are
Mm.
you inside or outside life?
I don't think they were trying to make it be subtle about it. It looked like it was giving birth, but it's all it's all part of the making the upside down look like a complete perversion of nature, right? It spits out things that kill and cause death. It doesn't. It's not supposed to spit out life. She was rescued from the tree.
Well, I get. Well, it's like maybe they've been reading Tolkien, and this is like when Pippin and Merry are pulled out of the old, the old willow, and hmm, it's
Yeah,
hard to
maybe.
say, right? And the thing is, at this point, we're saying either they're just, and this we know this from writing our poem, right? It's like suddenly, the imagery all happens to you, and then later you figure out what it meant.
It's true. Yeah, our subconscious is very smart. Yeah.
Why did we think that it had to happen this way? I don't know, but it's right. And then some professor comes along and tells you that it's about sex, and you're like, I didn't mean that at all. But this is the problem of, if there's the horror of our, like how we've been gaslight and psyoped and used as weapons, and fear of children, and uh, there's an awful lot of fear of being alive in this story, which is the obverse of, they end up dead. It's like we don't have a picture of Barb because I don't like looking at that image, but
No, it's ugly.
when she's found dead, instead of having sex, which it's like it's a curious sort of problem, because are they trying to celebrate actual like sexuality? Because this is the coming of age story with kids, and it's horror, so it's going to be that, right? It has to
Well, I
be,
think it's all
have
of
some.
subverting expectations. Like you say, if you're watching a 80s horror movie, the kids have sex, they get killed by the monster. So they've subverted that expectation again.
Indeed, but I think that, so, and they've subverted the poltergeist one. Here we had the one image that we have from outside the world, which is the poltergeist kid, right, with all
Oh
the
yeah,
hands. That
that movie still scares me.
Well, poltergeist was more clearly about life and death, right? It's like going into the light, right? All of the
Right.
don't go into the light, and then the monsters that comes out all comes from the house being on a graveyard, right? That it's
Right, and the monsters like the little are attracted to the little girl because of her life force is so strong because she's so innocent. That's a
right,
creepy message.
right, and that death wants to eat life, and this feels to me like it's something else. I mean, there are references to poltergeist and the bursting through out of this upside down, but I don't think the upside down is the same as the death world, the death plane that poltergeist
Yeah.
is playing
And
with.
you remember it's actually you remember when they rescued the little girl in Poltergeist, it was her mom who went into this kind of similar to what Hopper and Joyce did, went
True.
into this ugly world, grabbed onto her and pulled her out, and when they did, they were covered in red goo. It was like a birth.
We seem as creatures to have difficulty with this birth and death stuff.
Yeah, they're mixing the two, much like the upside down gets mixed with the right side up.
Yeah. Which gives us, so the scientist tries with the paper plate one, right? It's like our world, the acrobat, the flea, the upside down.
Mhm.
It's said one. Okay, again, this reference I think is straight up from Wrinkle in Time,
Yeah.
which helps because that is a book I read in this period. It had come out in the 60s, I think, but it was definitely one of those that got into my imagination. And this whole, can you fold the tesseract and can the ant travel? And that, I mean, A Wrinkle in Time, she has to go and fight. It's a girl, right? And she has to go and fight the mind
Yeah.
monster, which
Yeah,
is
what is it? It's not called it, is it?
I think it
No, what is it
is.
called?
It's an it.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like knowledge, right? And she fights it by being able
Yeah.
to remember, the periodic tables, which is what Nancy was supposed to be studying when Steve was trying to get her to not study. Nice one.
Yeah.
Good detail. I'm pretty clear, but I think that one's
Very
real,
nice.
right? But the the principal problem in all of this, right, is portals, as
Mm.
we've been pointing to saying, right? Every single one of these things is the portal problem. There's the portals of what happens to the kids when they're riding around on the bikes. There's the portals of where does Elle go when she's in the isolation tank. There's the what kind of portal takes you into the upside down. What kind of portal is a library? What kind of portal is a computer? What kind of portal is a book? What kind of portal is a game? Gee, I wonder why
Mhm.
we're obsessed with portals so much. Oh, Mel says Vox thinks the Earth is a tesseract. I haven't heard him. I don't remember him talking. I haven't been following all of his stuff recently, so I don't remember that conversation. Portals. Why might we be obsessed in modernity with passages and portals?
I can't believe we don't have one picture of the Hadron Collider in this group.
Well, I was trying to keep this under control, and we've hit 2 hours exactly. So there, I did it. Right? Okay, so Mel actually, I can't. The thing is, I can't hop around in these slides because it's a giant stack, and we go back to them. Remember what Elle looked like in the pool, lying there with her arms out, and remember where she came from. Here's an aerial shot of the lab, which is Hawkins' lab, and now you have your theory about
Yes.
what's going on in this story. And this to me is a very happy and satisfying understanding of why this entire season was about Christmas lights.
Oh, yeah. Shall I explain the theory?
Yes, you can explain your theory now. I've set
All
you
right.
up properly.
L is short for 11.
Yep.
L is also a name god. And she came from this institute here, this I guess laboratory.
It's a hawk. It's
Which is
called the
shaped like
Hawkins Laboratory. Yeah, in the
the
story.
Hawkins National Laboratory, which is shaped like a cross, where they tortured her, and she escaped from the cross.
Oh no!
She is a Christ figure.
I think they did that. I think they absolutely, completely did that. And that
Yeah,
pool,
it's beautiful.
it's beautiful. It's they've you know what the underlying horror of all of modernity is? It's Christ.
He's the horror?
Yes, because
How is he a horror?
because people don't want to see him.
I have the opposite idea.
This is why you are not the
Christ-
audience here.
Christ is the answer to the horror. He's not the horror himself.
Okay, so this was me trying to explain things about Huizinga and the pictures that he saw in Bruges in 1919 to my class yesterday. So we all know, because we're in the Mosaic Ark, that McLuhan was playing fast and loose with his medium is the message, because he actually believed that was literally true in one very beautifully specific situation. The word became flesh and dwelt among us.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
The light. That when McLuhan is sitting around going, the light is pure information and the medium is the message, and he's playing he's playing faster and looser than even Tolkien and Lewis did, because it's all there, completely obvious in his understanding of the way in which we are incarnate. And the thing I was trying to explain to my students yesterday was all about this problem of figure and ground that McLuhan points to with his tetrads. We may have to do a second episode on this to explain how it's it's a cross, right? But the tetrad of what happens in the tetrad when a new media obsolesces the old media and retrieves a previous, new media obsolesces a more recent media, right? So this streaming show is obsolescing reading novels, right? And the novel
Mhm.
is that's the one that everybody's so horrified that people are losing, right? Because, oh, you're all watching, 8-hour long movies. It does take a fair amount of attention to pull all to get together all these references and remember the characters. And you keep watching them in pieces instead of sitting down and watching the whole thing all at once. Goodness
I
sakes.
did over the last 9 years, but I like this week I started watching them all the way through from start to finish.
But what
And they're sufficiently horrifying.
this
So
is true.
if you like horror, I recommend.
And the music is very powerful. I think the music that we need
It's very effective.
somehow to talk about what the music is doing in all of this, because it's a very significant part of it. But I mean, they clearly they use the advantage of this medium of the streaming to publish the whole thing in one night, so that people could sit down and watch the whole thing in one night as you would read a book, and that it's actually, I mean, that I did sit down and watch it all in one night, means that you start making all these connections, and they're not reiterated very well, right? It's like you really have to pay attention, as you would, for example, in Dickens. Sit down and read the thing and keep in your mind, I saw that there. I saw that there. I'm making that connection there. Be like Joyce in your hall full of lights, right? And pull. I've got but the alphabet there. It's going to key to the lights. This is genius. Mel, you're right. This is genius. This is at this level of media understanding so intensely, but it's also at the level that McLuhan meant his understanding to be all along, because this feeling of want to being in the environment of the media, he also understood this as the way in which we're affected by being in the world incarnate. And that's what happens with our communication with God when he becomes incarnate and the word becomes flesh. Have I unpacked all the layers yet? The figure ground reversals are terrifying to people, because when the new media makes the ground visible, the thing that you've not been paying attention to, your immediate experience is not necessarily delight. It's horror, right? The printing press actually made Europe go nuts, because suddenly having all this information out there, suddenly in our internet world, having all this information out there, it's made everybody go nuts, because we're doing nothing but watching conspiracy theories and not knowing what to trust, right? So a new media environment is actually horrifying, because it's suddenly making available, I don't know, MK Ultra experiments on children. That's horrifying, right?
Yeah.
But when I suggested to my students that the way, because they were sitting there saying, but what if you guys are listening, I'm explaining it now. What's the way out, right? How do we ever know what's true if we're always flipping back and forth between the figure and the ground, the medium and the new medium, and the old story and the new story? And I said, well, the only way out, as McLuhan understand it, was the reality of heaven. Because then you actually have a ground against which you can see reality. And without it, you end up in Newton's absolute space, which is where we are now, and we're all crazy.
Which is also why a lot of scientists over the past 10 years or so have been embracing Christianity, or so I hear, because they didn't know what to do with all the information they found. And
Yes!
it doesn't make any sense without God.
She does this every time. She's sitting there going, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Yes! Yes!
Maybe accidentally.
Oh, no, it's actually excellent, right? Yes, exactly. The scientists are starting to see, because you cannot see anything without it, how beautifully revelatory. And I don't know what the Duffers are doing, but whatever it is, it's like cool, because if what they're actually saying is Christ is real and Christ is true, and the thing that we've been refusing to see in our reality is the light by which we see, this is the most Christian modern media experience out there. It's intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
And Rachel, it's in my name too. So I think that Mel was saying this earlier. She's way ahead. That um the pool when they put her in, I saw that in the image. I mean, I think they've staged, none of this happens in a shot without it being purposeful. When they're putting her in the pool, it's like a baptism, right? And it's salt. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, right? They have to fill it with salt so she'll float, right? But
Hmm.
the her she they have to, and that she's in that pink dress. It's like, I think the reason the Demogorgon has a flower head is the haunting of, it can go either way. And I think that flower head I see as, it's like there's a window at the University of Chicago in our chapel that has that shape. It literally
Oh.
5 petals, and it's the flame. It's the flame of the Holy Spirit in our chapel, but we don't have any in other iconography because it was Baptist, right? Baptist.
Mm.
Um, it could go either way. A 5 petaled flower is, um, on the one hand, it's the rosary, right? And I did a whole paper you
Oh.
guys can read on why flowers make better prayers. And in the medieval images of the rosary flower rose, it's not the fat flowers that we have now with the sort of peony like
Mhm.
they're flat and they're just 5 petals. So some of the horror, I think, and this I'm straight up going, I don't think they did this. I think they chose the flower face because it was a Venus flytrap image for them. But the horror of, we have in our Dragon Common room, and every time anybody ever shows up and starts, fighting me about Mary, so, every single time, the horror that prayer brings people to, right? It's like, you're praying to Mary, that's a demon, right? Or, that's a idolatrous practice. The other horror is that five petaled flower is the Tudors who rejected
Oh,
her.
yes.
So you never get away from this. Like, is it the rosary? Is it the, the Reformation destruction of devotion to Our Lady? I think this is also a completely Marian story in a lot of very interesting ways.
So you mentioned that you think the monster is a flower head, and I just remembered, because I have been intensely watching this for 2 days, that flowers play
See?
a very prominent role, throughout it. Their sunflowers are very important,
Yes.
and there's also a bunch of roses. There's also something that looks like an African violet that I think Steve had given to Nancy at
Yes.
Christmas. She was holding it. So there's always some kind of flower scene in it. So I think, yeah, you must be right. It must be as a perversion of something beautiful. It's a monster, right?
Right.
Flowers in the upside down is monstrous and yeah,
Well, there are flowers
evil.
everywhere. There's something else that you were just saying. Go back and what the
There are
flowers are
sunflowers.
there,
There's a bunch of
sunflowers.
roses.
Oh, her dress is that pink, right? That she, I mean, it's
Yes,
it's 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 pink, so it's like Pretty in Pink, so it's a John Hughes
and
reference. But
it has flowers embroidered on it. I think along across the top of it.
right, it's a very, it's rose pink, right?
Yes.
So she is there in this baptismal pool in a rose pink dress. Um, and when she fights it's like, it's interesting. All of these, they constantly putting their arms out. Um, that, she's got her arms extended to float, obviously, ha ha ha, right? It's the symbolism has to be there too because of the reality of the gesture. Um, that when she kills the Demogorgon, it's cross shaped too, right? Because it's got its
Mm,
arms spread.
yeah.
Um, Mel is saying, is the future is Christ, and in the rear view mirror, see what is coming, right? So this is, I find it very interesting how this came out in 2016. We're watching it nostalgically now for the way in which it's projected, as I see it, into the. I mean, we're in the Christ is King moment, right? When everyone's finally realizing that again, which I would say to many people is horror, right? They do not want to recognize that as the reality of that we
No.
inhabit.
Can you imagine the horror of knowing you were wrong and what that meant?
Well, indeed, right?
What that meant immediately for the world around you that you affected.
It, we pray that people don't have to face that because we want them to convert to Christ. Uh, Yes, Mel is like all exclamation points right now. Salt. Wow. Also the adverse pentagram, unfortunately. Yes. So these things. The problem is that it's not just Janus faced. It's the reality that we participate in of whether the frame we see through the frame of Christ or we see through the Demogorgon. Um, Daydreamer says, "I'm avoiding spoilers tonight, but I know you're crushing it, ladies. Cheers." Okay, so he dropped in to say hi.
Thank you.
Daydreamer's not giving us spoilers. Wait, I don't know. I thought he hadn't watched it yet. And Name of
No,
the
he said
Rose, right? He's watched it
yeah,
or he hasn't
he's
watched it. We don't
no,
know what
he
we're
hasn't watched
spoiling
it.
now.
He said I dropped. He said I dropped in just to say good job.
I think
I
that's
know you're
all.
doing
I
a good
think that's
job.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've whatever we've done. If we've spoiled it for you, season 1. Oh, so sorry. Right?
You know what? It's almost impossible to spoil it because like not just because it's been out for 9 years, but it is a really complex story, and they've done it very well. There's a lot of there's a lot of characters that have their own stories that they all kind of mesh together um, towards the conclusion of each season.
Right.
So you'd be missing a lot if you think we're giving you spoilers. You'd be missing a lot just to say I already know the story. So it's worth watching it, is what I'm saying.
Well, now you can watch. You can hate watch it and figure out whether or not we've given you an appropriate reading.
It's the kind of movie you can watch a couple of times and keep picking things up.
Well, and that's so in this sense, it is actually great art because they have
Yes.
by way of I'll go back to the kids playing the game. The game here. They have taken the game structure of Dungeons and Dragons and the joy that people had in playing that, and but we have friends. We had Alexander McCrease on back in the day to talk about his gaming. Like he's done dungeon mastering and things. He writes his Axe is his own system, so you can like game with the Tree of Woe. That the feeling like you're participating in the story and the degree to which the players in the party, as it were, co-create the adventure because of the way they respond, and then the dungeon master has to be, whether it's the Christian level of when God gives us tests and we take our chances and then respond to the kinds of tests that he gives us. Oh, well, the metaphors write themselves, or as it were, that it's an interesting Dungeons and Dragons as a game is an interesting problem of free will, because on the one hand it's your outcomes are determined by the accident of how the dice fall. But on the other, you have to make the right decisions. As I learned the one time I ever tried to play Dungeons and Dragons in, I think, 1981, and we never got out of the first layer because the party, got sort of giddy about, oh, cool, we can fight and we'll kill each other and steal the gold. And, that isn't...
Yeah, so it sounds like the one time I played,
right.
funny enough, I was 14, and it was a kid who was babysitting. He was 10 years old. He goes, let's play Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, oh, okay. And so like every roll I took, he just killed me like 10 times in a row. I'm like, this isn't a very fun game.
Right. But the thing is, if they're playing it for 10 hours, they have to cooperate, right? It's like the whole I mean, all of the kid level, proverbs that they come up with about friends don't lie, which is a useful piece of advice. And
yes.
Whether or not you're in the party and what it means to be in the party, and that they actually, I mean, it's a beautiful demonstration of friendship for the kids, like Hobbit level, or Fellowship of the Ring, which is nice. But they reminded in the story when they're talking about what happened to Will. Did he just? This is all in the first episode, guys. No spoiler there. That Will is on on Mirkwood. What's that, right? And they're in the Tolkien story by way of their gaming, and that their desire to be in that story is for the kids as hobbits. It's all about the trials that you go through and learn about yourself with your friends in the adventure. I mean, these characters get to grow up and go through puberty, and the hobbits don't really have that stress in the same way.
Yeah.
Sam's just old enough to go get married. Played by, of course, oh my goodness, Sean Astin.
Yeah.
some clever casting that they're playing with there for sure, right? It's like the degree to which he gets to be Sam in this in the season 2 or not.
And Sean Astin is, of course, famous for not just the Lord of the Rings. Before that, it was the Goonies, big 1980s
No
movie. So,
way! He was in the Goonies?
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's actually great. Talk about layered. Okay. Well. No. Daydreamer says no, this is not spoiler free. We've spoiled an awful lot. You need to watch before you watch this episode. Yeah, anyway. but it's too late because we've been going for it. We're gaming level,
Yeah.
a distance on this one. Yeah. So anyway, that's where I wanted to get us to in our particular story play. Have we killed killed the Demogorgon yet?
We've identified him. We're gonna have to go get him again.
Indeed. Well, I was quite excited by your and Mel's mutual identification of that building as the place where she's tortured.
Well, yeah, I hadn't. It's just a blip. You'll miss it if you blink when they're showing pictures of it in the series. And then I think because it was just a blip, that was probably on purpose. I mean, they call her Elle. She came from a cross, and they tortured her there. It's like, whoa.
That's really pretty hard hitting symbolism to be playing
but
with.
You don't. I mean, like I said, you can watch this many times and pick things up about it that she didn't pick up the first time.
She sacrifices herself for her friends. Oh my gosh, it's
yes, she does.
It's too much. I think our thesis is to be challenged and tested and gamed is that this is a Christian story and therefore it's a true story.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It absolutely is a Christian story.
So thank you, Duffer Brothers, for a very nostalgic moment. So I did get, after when I finished being upset about Indiana being Georgia, wondering.
That's just the funniest thing to get upset about.
Hey, I care about incarnation in the land, right? And that it's actually our earth, right? And that we want it in reality. All of these things matter a great deal. Oh, also Netflix is filming on campus, or was last week. So hey, although
that's right.
they didn't tell us what show it was. They did put up signs saying if you walk through this, you might get on camera. And too bad we're not going to give you any credit or money.
I'm okay. They must have wanted to have a bunch of people show up and
Oh, we all did. Right.
I know how to get lots of people here. Lots of extras for free.
Hey, it worked. Everybody was fascinated. But the fake snow was the most hilarious, right?
Yeah.
Talk about what things they fake on camera, right? Anyway, so I got interested in the Hawkins name and started looking it up and say, is there any reality in this Hawkins name? Why is it called Hawkins? Because of course we on the Mosaic Ark know that the Hawkins name has deep history and layers. Apparently, no, there's no relation between Sir John Hawkins. I was sorry to find out. So I'm not in the story that way, but my name is Rachel.
There you go.
I don't know. I know the thing is, there was this reference to this guy who worked at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and my Grok inquiry only took it as far back as like it's associated somehow with these scientific labs. But I think based on the presence of the evil rose, the Tudors, and the name Hawkins, there's more to this story than we may have found even
more.
Okay, guys. Millie Bobby Brown's new show Prism on CU. Okay. We're not okay, so we will.
I'm impressed with her. I really.
We have not exhausted, guys. Leave. We will have the newsletter is coming out this weekend, and links and references. Mel promised to write something because she's actually the expert on this, not us. And we are more than delighted to continue the game and continue with more exploration and questions. But if you give us yours responses to what we've explored tonight, then we can make it even more interactive and rich, right? So
Yes, that would be excellent. Actually, I would love to hear what other people have to think about this. I
there's
mean, not just
actually
what we pointed out, but what did we miss?
it they were using some kind of way to talk about it, like transmedia. No, that wasn't it. Not transmedia. Um, when the media starts crossing, right? And
Crossing the
everything's
streets.
it's interactive in this way because we say like season 2 is affected by people's reactions to season 1, at least in the way they dealt with Barb.
Right.
And then I do wonder, they have such an intense fandom who we've either delighted or irritated tonight, that the degree, it will be interesting to think about the degree to which the fandom has influenced the way in which they wrote the story, or whether they've kept true to their own vision. Apparently you can buy the screenplays, and I've already brought one book on this. How many more do I have to buy? That it will be more fun if we get some responses from you guys and get to build on them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
Because
share.
the final season, November 26th of Stranger Things, not us. So
Hey,
sorry, go ahead, I
we've
interrupted.
got weeks and weeks. We can keep going on this. Yeah.
That's right, we can. So please keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Okay. We've been sitting here for 2.5 hours, merely a minor, a quarter of a game day. But stranger things have happened. Good night.